I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein!
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it. Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your List Sucks Top 100 Series. Volume number 3. Tonight we get into the top half of the list or the bottom half of the list, or however you imagine the old dog in there. But we're in the top. So things have been cordial, things have been friendly. Now the gloves got to come off. I mean, top 50 movies all time. Out of all the countless hundreds of thousands of movies that are out there, thousands of movies you guys have watched, everything you say from now on, you're telling me is one of the top 50 best of all time. And I have to hold you responsible for that, for better or for worse. So we're doing things. What's up, Star Drew? We're doing things a little bit different this week. We're going to start allowing everybody to speak on the bottom 3. But we still want to get out here within a reasonable amount of time. So let's keep it short. One sentence, your quick review of the movie, and we'll move on. But before we get to that, let's talk to our panel. Ethan, you tied for first last week. Had a pretty good showing.
Yeah, I would say it was more of a win, but
well, it's a tie for win. But what do you got? So what's your thoughts on this week? Are you going to keep that train rolling along this week?
I don't think so, Kirk. I think this is the week where things get a little weird, and I don't know about that. I don't know about that win today. But I'm very excited about my list this week.
All right, good. Cody, also tied for first last week. It was close, neck and neck. I couldn't break the tie. I had no way to break the tie. I told you guys I was sitting here for like the last half of the show trying to come up with some kind of calculus to break the tie, and I couldn't. But do you think you feel better about this week? You think you're going to run away with it this time?
I just like, one, the opening says I'm running this now, Frankenstein, so I guess I'm Frankenstein too. I love that the benchmark starts at the top 50. We didn't start it last week, so Ethan can still have bullshit on his list. And this week, I think I'm going to win. I don't know this week. I think this is the one week that if somebody has been like losing a lot, Brian, he could win this week because I have some questionable choices, and I already know that you said something to start it with, like, oh, I got to start holding you accountable. So I know one of my movies is the reason for that, and it's bullshit already. So it's going to be fun. I'm having fun.
All right. Brian, you technically didn't come in fourth place last week.
Technically, no. I feel happy that Cody has such faith in me that I might win, but that's never going to happen. I think that tonight, I don't think there's anything you're going to truly hate the way you have some of my previous ones, but there are going to be plenty that you will not be happier in my top 50.
All right. And finally, Zach Ford, also tying for second place last week. Which direction you think the air is pointing up for you? Is that going to continue, or is it all downhill from here?
That is the nicest way to say tied for last, but I appreciate it. I know that I'm going to come out looking good tonight because I have a list of objective bangers. I think you guys are going to be against them and come out looking like the fools, not me. So I don't know if I'm going to win here, but in the annals of film history, I want this one.
All right, we'll see about that. Okay, let's get started. Like I said, guys,
on that anal.
We're going to do the bottom 3 here. You'll talk, I'll talk, to everybody else real quick. 5 words or less, 6 words or less. What do you think about that movie? And then we'll go from there.
I said a fucking sentence.
Exactly. All
he
right.
fucking loves that thing more than anybody else.
That was perfectly timed too.
Chat's very active already. Thanks everybody for watching. Cody, let's start with your bottom 3.
You know, I'm going to start off with just a banger. Just a absolute crowd pleaser. My number 50 is Big Daddy. My number 49 is The Chicago Way, The Untouchables. And my number 48 is one of my favorite comedies of all time. It's Coming to America. Okay, so Big Daddy, not a huge Adam Sandler fan. I understand a lot of people hate him. This is the one movie that I feel like has the most heart, and I believe that it has the most grounded that he's ever been. It didn't hit me as hard until I did the foster care process and like kind of I had adopted my son. This movie is really funny. I've quoted it my entire life, but now it has even more of a significance about like that scene when he's walking away at the end and it's like, I wipe my own ass. I wipe my own ass. Like doing anything, just saying, hey, just don't let them take me. I want to be here. And that just rips my like soul out every time I hear it. There's great quotes throughout it, like Hooters, 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 and stop pulling your sister's hair. I think I've said that to numerous people over my life. I think this movie gets a really bad rap. It gets tied in with the Water Boy and the stuff of that. People don't like it, I would say, but I think Big Daddy is really, really good. The next one is my 49. It's The Untouchables. This is a movie that I waited a little too long in life to see. It's kind of like a perfect Cody movie. I think Sean Connery, deserved the Oscar. Hands down, how this movie was not nominated for Best Picture is absolute bullshit. I love when they're sitting in the church at the beginning of the film and he goes, do you really want Capone? He's like, I want Capone. Okay, well, if you pull out a knife, you pull out a gun. If they send somebody to the hospital, you send them to the morgue. It's the Chicago way. And it goes down through all their just that intense gunfight. Everybody says De Niro is like phoning it in this movie. I don't understand it. And Costner's not a cardboard cutout, like a piece of wood. Like, and that's impressive because that man is probably one of the most boring actors that have ever walked this earth. And he is actually really great in this film. And then my next one is Coming to America. Coming to America is one of my all-time favorite comedies. I think I've not seen the second one. I don't know how that movie holds up. I think it's just like I think people are okay with it, but this movie I didn't want them to touch it because I think this first movie is just brilliant. From where they start and they do that world building of where they all are, and he's the king and he's like the prince and he's coming over to here and he wants to go to Queens and the guy in like New York's like, you don't want to go to Queens. Like, nope, take me to Queens. They park the car and everybody steals all their shit. He gets like a job at the food. I still love the scene when Samuel L. Jackson comes in and like tries to rob the place and he's like, please do not speak any more profanities. I'll have to thrash you. What the hell did you say? And beats him with a mop. I think this movie's got a lot of heart, but it's so funny. I laugh nonstop at Coming to America. So that's my bottom half.
Okay. Big Daddy, yeah, I don't think it gets thrown in with like the really bad Sandler. I mean, I think it's probably like upper middle tier as far as just like quality of the movies. And I mean, yeah, it probably has the most heart of a Sandler movie, but it's still, I mean, you still got a lot of Sandler nonsense. You got, the obnoxious Rob Schneider character and just a lot of stuff you got to wade through to get to that. So I mean, it's not terrible. It's not a bad. Like I said, I mean, it's like I said, it's probably top 5 Sandler, but top 50 of all time. That's a little rough. The Untouchables, yeah, great movie. Great looking movie. A lot of really great scenes in this. I mean, that scene in the train station with the stroller going on the steps, iconic, really good. Sean Connery is great in this. I think I agree with you. I think De Niro is good. I disagree with you. I do think Kevin Costner is a piece of wood in this. He's just basically, he's just very, very generic Kevin Costner. Everything else going on around him is really good, but he's the thing that screeches it to a halt for me. And I think he's what keeps this from being like a top 100 worthy movie for me. Put a real actor in that role, and I'm really excited about it. But you can only go so far with Costner. And Coming to America. Yeah, I really like this movie. I think it's probably Eddie Murphy's best character that he's played. I just love like the personality exuberance, like that positivity. And then Arsenio Hall is really great as the friend who kind of like just falls for the whole like New York thing and just really loves that lifestyle, doesn't want to give it up. Yeah, it's probably my favorite Eddie Murphy movie overall. Just really, really solid. So everybody else, let's give this a try real quick. We're going to go Big Daddy, Untouchables, Come to America. Big Daddy, go.
Used to love, now I don't.
Yeah, Adam Sandler, no thank you.
He's muted, dumbass.
That's it. That's his
We're-
time.
Oh, that's your turn.
Worried people call Cody Big Daddy.
All right, Untouchables.
I haven't seen the Untouchables yet.
Okay. I'll say the word 6 words. Good Chicago movie, so of course I love it. I will say my only complaint about the movie is the score is a little too bombastic and intrusive many times.
Haven't seen it.
All right,
You
great
got
start.
4
to
words
that.
left.
287. 287.
And Coming to America.
Only seen parts of it, unfortunately.
Like it, but not top tier Eddie Murphy for me.
If we change this to syllables, it's gonna be real fun, County. I like Coming to America a whole lot. This might be my favorite Eddie Murphy movie. It's real fun.
All right, good job, guys. Got through that quick. Ethan, we're going to move on to you for your bottom 3.
All right, my bottom 3 are number 50. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. My number 49, Ratatouille. And my number 48 is a movie called Thelma from 2017.
All you?
Is that Selma with a lisp? Thelma?
Yeah. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This movie is pure 80s horror comedy. It's very intentional. It's directed by these guys named the Chiodo brothers. They were big special effects guys in the 80s, and they made a movie, and it's Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and it's kind of playing on those tropes of like wacky 50s horror movies, but with an 80s special effects team and just doing a bunch of fun stuff. It has an awesome theme song by the Dickies. It's really cool. Even if you don't want to watch the movie, go listen to the theme song. It's fucking awesome. And it's just, this movie is just a ton of really fun, ridiculous gags with these clown aliens with incredible special effects, some really funny lines, and a few, I'm not kidding, a few legitimate scary scenes. Like there's this scene where there's a cop who's being puppeteered by a clown, and it's like pretty unsettling. It's actually really creepy. And the movie just keeps building and building with all these like crazy, alien clown gadgets until the end where there's just this big climactic thing. I won't spoil it. It's really, really fun. Some great lines. One of my favorite lines of all time. What are you going to do with those pies, boys? Anyone who's seen it knows that scene's, it's so good. Yeah, it's a great horror comedy. You guys should watch it. And then my number 49, Ratatouille. Ratatouille is, in my opinion, the best Pixar movie. I love this movie. I think it's written really well. It's really funny. It's super, super heartfelt. I also am a huge fan of food, and the way that Remy describes food to his rat brother or whatever, where he's like, you hear music and you see like the colors and they combine, and it's all like it's like jazz almost, and it's just such a beautiful representation of flavors and food. So I just love watching the beautiful animated food. Linguini is a really fun character. There's a great little romance, like the side plots. There's like twists and turns, and I just think it's a really heartfelt movie. And the climax with the so-called villain isn't this like big action sequence. It's like this simple thing that's just, it's very emotional. It touches on love of food and memories and nostalgia, and I just think it's a really beautiful movie. And the score is so good. It's like, I think it's Michael Giacchino. It's one of his best. It's so good. And then Thelma. This is a really good movie. I think it's Norwegian. Let me double check really quick. Yeah, Norwegian. It is a like semi-horror sci-fi thriller almost. It's not really sci-fi, but it's about this woman Thelma who's got these like telekinetic abilities, and she comes from a very religious family, and she is slowly like learning about her own sexuality, and she's beginning to fall for this woman named Anya, and because of her upbringing and her abilities, it's like manifesting itself in really crazy, strange ways. And it deals with like deep themes of like repression and being scared of opening yourself up and being who you are. And but it's done in this really, it's told through this story of like this dark telekinetic woman who is just going through a lot of stuff, and her family is like crazy. And I won't say too much more because it's like, that's the general story, but it's shot beautifully. It's acted really, really well. It's like, it's just put together so well with I love when genre movies are made really, really well. And this is made really, really well for a genre film and for any film. It's great. You guys should watch it.
Okay. Killer Clowns I got to watch this week. I'd never seen it before. It's fun. There's some, the clown, the creature design's cool, and like all like the clown gags are fun. But it's like I know it's trying to be cheesy. It's trying to be like a B movie. But holy crap. Some of the, and again, I know these movies are supposed to have bad acting, but some of the acting in this movie is just literally the worst I've ever seen. Like the guy, is Mike the main character? Is that the main guy? Like he talks like this the whole movie. Sounds like a Randy Moore DJ. 86 degrees, traffic on Route 28. It's like
Mike
so,
Tobacco.
Like, yeah, it's
Checks
so
out.
like, and then like the brothers, the ice cream truck brothers. It's just so bad. Like there's just so much stuff that I just couldn't get on board with.
So fun.
I mean, it is fun. Like if you say it's a fun movie and you like it, that's fine. But number 50 all time, I can't accept that. That's just it's not good enough for that. Definitely.
Disagree.
Ratatouille. I'm on record. I think this is maybe one of the most. No, not the most. Up is the most overrated Pixar movies, but this is up there. No pun intended. It just there's certain things I want from a Pixar movie, and this doesn't do it for me. Pixar to me is just all about like creating like a big new world and like something like that. This one is just so small scale, and I just never clicked with me for the first time I ever watched it. It's not bad, but I just sorry, Nick. I'm not a fan of it. And Thelma, I did not get a chance to watch. Unfortunately, it was on my list, but it's I know it is a B movie, but it is trying to be a B movie also, Paul. Thelma I didn't get to see. It was on my list. I just didn't get around to it. So everybody else, Cody, I know you're going to have to rein yourself in. I know you have a lot of things you want to say about Killer Clowns, but you're going to have to keep it short. Let's start with Killer Clowns.
Get the fuck out of here, Ethan.
Saw a long time ago. Very Ethan.
I saw as a child there is one shy of being too many unnecessary Ks that make me uncomfortable about its ulterior motives.
It's just 2. We're safe.
Let's get it.
All right.
They were waiting for the sequel.
Mike Tobacco.
Ratatouille.
Top 5 Pixar. I've come around to this film. Great choice.
I'd say this is probably in the lowest tier of Pixar for me.
There's lots I love about it that gets ruined by having the most Looney Tunes bit of him controlling his fucking body with hair, which is the dumbest thing that Pixar, who's usually smart, ever came up with. And it frustrates me because there's lots of love, but it's too stupid for them. It's like they couldn't.
All right. I guess that means, Brad, we're on to you for your 53.
Oh, what about Thelma?
Oh, Thelma. Yeah, who's? I don't think anybody's seen Thelma.
I have seen Thelma and Louise. Thank you.
It was on my watch list for a while, and then it became too old to be counted as a new release, so I skipped it.
That's a good reason to not watch a movie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Too long.
All right, Brian, 50 through 48 for you.
My number 50 is This Is Spinal Tap. My number 49 is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And my number 48 is The Last Boy Scout.
I did have Spinal Tap pre-Yikes.
So this is Spinal Tap. Obviously, probably still the best mockumentary ever made. It kind of was one of the earliest ones. I'm sure that somebody will dig up one earlier, but this is just such an excellent mockumentary. It does it so well. It's the directorial debut of Rob Reiner, as well as, you got Hank Azaria. I'm not Hank Azaria. Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, Christopher Guest. You got tons of other people in there. You got Bruno Kirby, Paul Schaefer. It's a great comedy with a ton of people in it. It's all done very dryly. So, it's not, over the top and slapsticky so much, even though there is some physical comedy in it. It's done kind of almost very seriously, which is kind of what makes it funny, because it's these rock stars who are so full of themselves. And even like if you've seen lots of interviews with real like rock stars, they say this is probably one of the most accurate movies to how things really happen backstage and stuff. But anyway, I just really thought this was a great comedy. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I know.
Wait, do I get to talk about Spinal Tap?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had Spinal Tap at number and it's Just one of the best line for line laugh movies. My only like unique take would be I think Michael McKean kind of owns the movie. I know a lot of people love Christopher Guest, but I think Michael McKean has so much confidence throughout the movies, but especially as a musical performer. Like he really hits the front man ideal really well. And I just I have a thing for these kind of parody movies that take what they're doing really seriously. Like still the musicianship is good. The songs are dumb, but they're not like horrible musicians. What they're trying to make, you can kind of see some level of why they are supposed to be popular. That makes you kind of fall for the characters a little more. And just amazing chemistry, between all the guys. That's why they continue to make movies together. Christopher Guest continue to make his own movies because he has a brand new humor that I think could work in a lot of different settings. So, love Spinal Tap.
All right, Brian, you're 49.
That's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I'm sure will get crap for being my top 50, but I don't care. This movie's just a ton of fun. I mean, it's directed by Doug Liman, who from Swingers and Go and some of the Bourne movies and Edge of Tomorrow. But you got Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, who are two just fine physical specimens at the top of their game here. And their chemistry in this movie is off the charts. I mean, there was a lot of shit when it came out. People were all caught up in the real life drama with those two and then with Jennifer Aniston, the whole thing. Put all that aside, though, and just enjoy the movie. And this movie is just tons of fun. I mean, it's just, I've said this before, but I love movies when they get that perfect kind of blend of action and comedy, and they do it so well here. And like I said, those two leads are great, as well as, got Vince Vaughn in there. You got Adam Brody showing up in a Brad Pitt movie with a Fight Club t-shirt. I mean, come on. Who doesn't like that little wink? So, there's that. And then 48, I had The Last Boy Scout. My love of Shane Black is well known. This is one of my favorites that he wrote, did not direct. Tony Scott, obviously one of my favorite directors out there. You got Bruce Willis. He's got in the middle of his, good Die Hard movies. Damon Wayans at the top of his game as well. And this is just a movie that I don't really get into sports movies, like especially the inspirational kind of thing, are not my kind of thing. But you said like a good comedy action noir movie in that world. Yeah, I'm invested. It's good. I mean, the movie starts off with a football player pulling out a gun and shooting everybody's kneecaps out, and then himself in the head in the end zone. I mean, you got my attention right from the first scene. But this is another one where Shane Black's dialogue goes a long way towards making this movie really work for me. And this is back when Bruce Willis actually cared and tried. So, there you go.
All right. This is Spinal Tap. This is what I like. I think it's ahead of its time, just that style of comedy, that real dry, not giving up the bit kind of thing. And I think it's, you look at Flight of the Conchords, that kind of stuff they do now. That's all the same style. They were doing it back then, which I think is pretty cool. And I just like just how committed they are to being so stupid, just kind of that ridiculousness of it. But treat it seriously, treat it like a real band. It's a lot of fun. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I saw when it came out. I don't remember a lot about it. They weren't together in this movie. This is the movie that broke Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston up, right?
They met on this movie.
Okay. He
broke up with Jennifer Aniston, and then he got together with Angelina. Don't believe the tabloids.
Because most of the time when it's their real life couples, the movie sucks. So this movie probably sucks. But no, the one thing I like, the one thing I do remember about is the final scene, the big shootout at the end, was a pretty cool scene. That's really my most vivid memory of this movie. The Last Boy Scout. Started watching this movie before we came this evening before we came on here. I haven't finished it yet, but so far it is terrible. I can't believe Shane Black wrote this, because usually Shane Black, even if it's not a good movie, his characters and his dialogue is good. The dialogue in this movie, oof. Every single line is a one-liner, and all of them are bad. It sounds like your dad trying to imitate a Bruce Willis action movie. It's so every single line just falls flat. The characters are horrible. It's one of those action movies. Literally, there's a scene where Damon Wayans witnesses at the beginning. I'm not spoiling. I think it's the beginning of the movie. He witnesses his girlfriend brutally murdered, mowed down with machine guns in the streets, and literally 3 minutes later, he's joking with Bruce Willis about his leather pants. There's no emotion or connectivity to anything. It's just the most. It's when a movie or TV show does a parody of an act, a bad action movie, and you just shows a scene for 2 minutes, it just has every one of those stereotypes. That's what this movie feels like. Maybe I'm only
about his pants, and he's kind of blowing him off.
But it's like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, they're just like, he's talking about his pants, but his girlfriend said. I'm about 2/3 of the way for it. Who knows? Maybe it gets great in the last third. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
You're not going to like the last third.
All right, so we'll do this as Spinal Tap for Ethan and Cody.
Movies and 11 out of 10.
Yes.
I hate comedy. I stayed away.
All right, and everybody else besides Brian on Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I'm going to go.
Vince Vaughn is great.
When I saw this in theaters as a kid, the only thing I remember about it is eating too many sour Skittles and like my mouth got like cut up. But I think I had fun when I was a kid and I saw it. That's the only time I ever saw it. But I remember the Skittles.
I haven't seen it, but I'm working my way through Bradley Pitt.
Bradley.
No need to be so formal, Zach.
I don't know him, so I gotta call him by his proper name.
And last Boy Scout.
Tony Scott. I had a lot of fun with this movie.
I have not seen the last.
Don't know why I would ever watch this unless Theo grows up and has horrible taste and makes me watch his shit.
But then is he your son?
What? Yeah, he's only watching silent films until he's age 14, so he can have patience.
No Billy Wilder though. He's better than that.
Okay, the Billy Wilder's behind me. I really like Billy Wilder. That's not the point.
Okay, Zach, give us your bottom three.
All right, my number 50 is The Princess and the Bride.
Yeah,
or Princess Bride. Jesus Christ, who am I saying?
I knew what you were saying. And
I even wrote it in my notes as The Princess and the Bride. I'm fucking high.
Well, I'm not yikesing that. No, I'm yikesing The Princess Bride, which like
I have Princess and the Frog in my head. Okay, that's my 49. Now, 49 Hoop Dreams. 48, and I'm glad to see all these documentaries on your list, guys. Okay, my 48 is Nashville.
I didn't include any documentaries, just a heads up. So sorry.
All right. So give us Hoop Dreams in Nashville, Zach.
All right. Hoop Dreams in Nashville. I've when I was writing my notes, there's like very similar things that I wrote about, which is weird because they're very different movies. But I think they both have kind of an epic scope of a specific community, with Hoop Dreams being the Chicago youth basketball scene, taking 4 kids over a long span of childhood on trying to accomplish your dreams, but yet there's such intimacy within it. Like you really get to understand their subjects very closely, and like very fleshed out, that you can kind of understand what drives them and understand their kind of vulnerability that they have. And it's just incredible to get such rawness in how kids within that community, especially these young Black kids in the 1980s or 90s, 90s, feel their way to succeed is, and how kind of narrow-minded that kind of idea can be based on how society let them. So incredible. Another, we have a lot of Chicago movies on this because Chicago just makes a great background for these kinds of details. All right. My number 48, Nashville. I literally wrote the exact same thing, which was the, epic and scope of a community, but somehow finds such intimacy within all its characters. I think I only have like a few adjectives in my vocab. This is the flaw. But this, Robert Altman, my favorite kind of Robert Altman movies is when he, captures a very specific kind of community with such specific details. In this case, it is the Nashville country scene in the 70s. The plot is very minimum because it's more jumping kind of from moment to moment, from character to character, to create as fleshed out of all the different qualities of this country community can be. All the actors, the huge cast make the best of all their moments. I do think Lily Tomlin is the standout. I think she's the emotional core of the movie. She has the best scene with, I believe, David Carradine. I can't remember the Carradine names. David Carradine, who sings the best song in the movie. having different kind of motivations for his moment, being different than how it's being perceived by Lily Tomlin and other characters in the Thank You, I'm Easy, being interpreted by her, and just the like quiet face acting throughout the scene, the way Robert Altman captures it is like very devastating and I think very complex in his emotional intelligence. And I think that's just a good definition of the movie. And a great political background without it hitting over the heads. It's just there as atmosphere that you can kind of read into it and get it as subtext rather than explicitly telling you it's, political connections. It's just a really smart movie. It's really long, but I think, it flies because you feel like you're living within it, with it so fleshed out.
Okay. Hoop Dreams, I didn't get a chance to watch. It was on my list, but I won't lie. It was one of the lowest priority ones for me because, A, like I said before, I'm not a big documentary guy. And B, I'm not a big NBA. I'm not a big basketball guy. So for me, it's like, hey, you guys make it great. Good for you. I'm never going to watch you play. So really not much connection there for me. And Nashville, I did watch. I just watched this yesterday, actually. So I'm not going to. This isn't a movie you can watch once and say, "Oh yeah, I get it, I understand it," because there's so much going on. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on this movie. But I really did like the whole vibe of it. One of my biggest pet peeves about movies is exposition. I hate when things explain too much. I love a movie like this where it just kind of throws you in, and you have to get your bearings. Doesn't tell you what's going on. You just kind of have to figure it out as you go. Other thing I think is really cool about this movie is every character moves through it like they're the main character. And it's almost like they are all the main character in their own movie. And like all these different movies are just intersecting and you're just getting bits and pieces of them from each character. So that's really cool. It is long. That kind of freaked me out when I saw how long it was. And a movie like this, that kind of meanders, like you could really feel that. But I think Altman does a great job of pacing it where you're you're moving around enough where you really don't feel the length. It's almost 3 hours. Didn't feel that way too much. Too long at all for me. So I really enjoyed it. I am, something I definitely want to revisit because there is obviously a lot of layers there, a lot going on. And I just want to be able to capture it all. But I enjoyed my first video.
Very pleasantly surprised on that one. I had some nervous.
All right. Everybody else on Hoop Dreams.
Cody's muted.
It's not inside
Fantastic
baseball, Paul. It's
documentary.
inside basketball.
Fantastic documentary.
I've never seen Hoop Dreams.
Beautiful and heartbreaking documentary movie film.
You don't have to use 6 words. You can just stop at movie.
I think we should do it in haiku.
Work on that for next week. And Nashville. Anybody got anything on Nashville?
Runtime scares the shit out of me. Runtime scares the shit out of me, and people told me to stay away, so I stayed away.
Never seen that dang Nashville, boys.
What's that even mean?
All right. Hey, I'm proud of you guys. You did that. We only had to use a shop roll once. That whole segment there. So I think we'll keep that up for next week, you guys. So we'll move on now. Now everybody gets to talk for real. And we're going to start with Cody's number 47.
My 47. Why I need to get out of the top. Okay. My 47 is Selma.
I already did that
We
one.
talked about that.
Thelma.
What?
Keep going.
Selma.
Oh. I was like, what? Did I miss something? Okay. You really threw me off. So some of my favorite movies involve the civil rights. I just find that era completely fascinating. And Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my historical figures that I've read so much on him. I think he's absolutely incredible. And this movie does it so well for me. I think his performance is absolutely incredible as Dr. Martin Luther King. How he did not get an Oscar nomination is one of the most confusing things that I've ever seen. If you play a clip, I will not pronounce his name because there's no chance I'm going to be able to say it right, versus Martin Luther King, they are identical. I think this entire this scene where the whole bridge scene, just how I don't know who directs this film. I should be really more. I should make notes and stuff like that and be educated on my shit before I talk. But how they are able to put the bridge scene and when the cops and take on and start the riots basically in this and bring out the hoses and stuff. How helpless you feel during this entire scene. And I like that they show like the true like how Martin Luther King, like when he was in jail, and like the stuff that you don't really see about him, like how mad he was and how frustrated he was, and his speeches inside the church, and how just real he was. I think it's an absolute underrated film for 2014. Not a lot of people talk about it. I think this movie, I absolutely love this film. I think the Glory, the song that was nominated, I love that song. I think it plays so well during this movie. Yeah, I can't speak more highly on Selma. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, we just watched this today, and yeah, it's really good. That bridge scene is just devastating in the way it's shot. I mean, you're just hearts in your throat, and I mean, if you could watch that, not just be like emotionally drained when it's over. Because it just comes out of nowhere, you know. I mean, it's just like you're just waiting for it, and then it's just like he's like go, and then it just all hell breaks loose, and it's just terrifying and heartbreaking to watch. But the rest of the movie is great. I love biopics like this that show you like behind the scenes, like a historical event or a historical moment where you think, oh, it just happened. And you see behind the scenes of the machine behind it, and you know just all the politicking that went, not just with like the actual politicians like with LBJ and everything, but just within his own organization and with other adjacent organizations. You know how much work had to go into that, how much was against him, from every different angle. So yeah, that was a really good movie, really eye-opening movie. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get at least nominated for that because he's really good. Like I wasn't sure because I think he's a good actor, but for that role, that's such like obviously such a heavy, important role. And he really just kind of, and I think like he gets better as the movie goes on. Like
if you play a famous person in Hollywood, you automatically get an Oscar nomination. But Martin Luther King drew nothing. It was the most confusing thing for the Oscars.
Yeah. Everybody else on Selma. And you can talk. You're no longer at your 6-word limit here, Ethan. You can say as much.
Cool. I don't need more I will, whatever. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen 13th, which is a great documentary, and I've seen A Wrinkle in Time, which is a horrible movie. So Ava DuVernay is batting 1 for 2 for me, and I think if I watch Selma, it'll probably, get her over that threshold for me, but I haven't seen it.
There's not even anybody named Selma in it. I don't get it. No, I haven't seen the movie.
I really like Selma when it came out. I haven't seen it since, but I will rewatch it when they release the Common cut, where after every scene, Common just narrates what happens in his best glory like a melody. I'm in for that shit.
All right, Cody, 46.
No, 46. I stand by this. I do not believe this man won an Oscar just because he lost to it in another film. It is Training Day. Surprise, surprise, that Denzel Washington shows up on my list. But it won't be the last time either. I absolutely love Training Day. Ethan Hawke had the shittiest first day on a job that anybody could possibly have. He literally showed up to the most corrupt cop in the entire in LA. No one dies better than Denzel Washington. I will stand by this. If you go back to that scene with the King Kong ain't got shit on me, fantastic. Through and through, I just love how Denzel plays this character. He never gets to play this character, this just awful cop, basically, and just like so manipulative and so like drives the entire Ethan Hawke to just do some of these crazy things. I absolutely love this film. I hate when people say that he didn't deserve the Oscar for this because they were just making up for Malcolm X. I think he did deserve the Oscar. I think he's absolutely just incredible throughout this film. It's a great, gritty movie. It flies by. Yeah, Training Day.
I like this movie. I definitely think it rides on Denzel's performance. I think if you put anybody else in that role, I think this is just pretty much a run-of-the-mill cop movie, and we really don't talk about it that much. But he is so good in it. He like just that character he creates here is, and it's just it's not like usually that Denzel energy is used for good, and to see it used for evil is just so weird and uncomfortable, but it's still so great at the same time because you still love him because it's Denzel being Denzel, but he's so bad at the same time, and you see how he uses that to manipulate people, And just like when he hasn't like smoked a little bit of drugs at the beginning, and then like you find out like later he's been setting him up the whole time, the whole day. He's been pulling the strings. It's kind of terrifying actually. But yeah, like I said, I mean that's my only thing. That's what keeps the movie from being great for me is I think it's the performance more than it is the movie. But it's a great performance. It's a fun movie.
That's fair. It's probably there because of the performance, but I'm okay with it.
Everybody else on Training Day.
I haven't seen it. I have a lot of weird Denzel holes, unfortunately.
No, I do like Training Day a lot. I think it's while Denzel's good in it, he's obviously had much better performances than that, though. Although looking at the other nominees that year, he deserved the Oscar. I mean, of all his roles, that would not be the one I'd give it to him for, but based on his competition that year, he deserved it. But yeah, it's a good movie. Ethan Hawke actually, pulled it off. He's kind of, not really gotten a lot of respect as a real actor, and for many times he doesn't deserve it. But he was good in this, and Antoine Fuqua, I thought actually he did a great job, kind of making that gritty crime drama thing to it. So yeah.
Some unnecessary shade at my fellow Ethan there. I do love Ethan Hawke. I think he's great in most things he's in. And I do like Training Day. It's a great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember really liking it. And Denzel is awesome. It's such a fun villain. And yeah, like Kirk was saying, like it is scary. Like if you put yourself in Ethan Hawke's shoes in that movie, it's like it is terrifying the way that like he's just manipulated, and like that scene where he makes him smoke. What was it, PCP or something that makes him smoke? That scene,
he thinks it's weed. He thinks it's weed, and then later finds out it's PCP.
The first time I saw that, I was just like, I felt like sick. It was like really effective. So it's a good movie.
And I'll agree with Paul too. I mean, Hawke's not bad, and he does what he has to do in that movie.
He stays the hell out of Denzel's way.
But he's there just enough of it. So yeah, I mean, Paul's not wrong. 45, Cody.
Well, let's just keep the Denzel train rolling. That's fine with me. My 45 is Philadelphia.
I had that yikes earlier.
Fantastic song that won the Oscar that year for this. Koho can shut the fuck up in the back for that. Philadelphia is a movie that I think should be shown in schools. I think this movie has a ton of great messaging, and it also shows a awful past that we had. How people were treated back then, I think is absolutely disgusting. And I think Denzel, his acting in this movie is so good without saying anything. His body language throughout this entire film tells mainly his story. How he looks at stuff, how when Tom Hanks puts his hat on his table, how he freaks out, and you just see him melting down on the inside without saying anything. But when he does say stuff, it is so powerful throughout this film. I think just as a country, we handled the AIDS pandemic situation so terribly for these people that went through it. It's just one of the saddest times in history. And I think it just shows how terrible human we were. But I think Hanks and Denzel in this role, unlikely coming together to resolve this case and stand up for his rights as an employee in that situation and how he was handled. I just think this movie has so much heart. I absolutely love Philadelphia. And I'll pass it to Zach.
Yeah, I did a Jonathan Demme marathon and then did this for a Tom Hanks marathon. So watching it from two different kind of perspectives of what I was focused on added, different qualities I was able to notice. I think this is, in a way, should be the defining Jonathan Demme movie as far as what defines him as a filmmaker, because I think he's a very empathetic filmmaker, and I think his use of close-ups is used specifically in this to build such complexity of the characters, and which is because that angle is kind of a Demme classic. But there's just so much humanity throughout the film and throughout how he deals with this subject matter. That I think, for 1992 or 93, right? 93, it had some rep for maybe how it dealt with the community, but I think it was perfectly empathetic, especially for that time where they knew about the AIDS crisis at that moment. I also, the opening scene, which is kind of concept that has been done, the opening credit scene has jackass. The opening credits has been he enjoys it. He used to climb on me, so I would throw him. Anyways, The opening credit scene, which is going through the streets of Philadelphia with the streets of Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen playing overhead, is something that's been done in a lot of movies. It's done in Dog Day Afternoon, that kind of opening credits going through a city and just seeing like the real community thrive. But I think it hasn't been better than what Demi does here. I think a combination of the perfect song for it, but also just the shots he gets and the emotion that he uses with the camera to go through it, and the awareness that people have of being filmed. They're just like waving at the camera. It adds, kind of a human quality to it and a charm to the city. That I have watched Philadelphia 3 or 4 times. I have watched that opening scene about 30 times.
Philadelphia, I'll say again, same thing. I'll say this is a movie I think rides on the performances, the 2 lead performances. I think Hanks and Denzel are fantastic in it. Just the way what Hanks does with the illness and how he handles that is so good. That opera scene when he's listening to the opera is just so amazing. And what they do with the lighting and the camera work in there is great. And then Denzel, exactly what you're talking about, Cody. I love when a character's arc is like physically represented. And like you can see that just change, like literally, like when he first walks in the office and he's like backing away and not touching anything, and then at the end when he like puts his hands on him and everything, like you see that completion of his change there. But I love the first scene when they're together and they're before anything, when they're just working on a case, and it's kind of like subvert your expectations because Hanks is would technically be considered the bad guy there. He's defending the big business, and Denzel's defending the neighborhood people. So it just kind of plays with your expectations there, and I thought that was interesting. Beyond that, though, I think this movie has kind of some almost like after school special vibes. I think like some of the characters, like other than Denzel, like the bad characters are just like these are the bad guys, and the good characters are just like very like way too good. Like there's not like Denzel character almost looks out of place because there's so much like depth and complexity to him. Everybody else is so shallow, and I'm sure like I'm sure in '93 this movie had its finger on the pulse, but like I now it just feels like kind of like a little like antiquated in its attitudes towards like AIDS and the homosexual community and everything. But and as far as the way the movie's shot, like I'm not a fan of like the close-ups and the staring directly at the camera. I think the movie's kind of like flat and boring in certain places. But it's still overall, like I said, just because of those two, it's pretty good. Brian and Ethan on Philadelphia.
I was just enjoying watching Cody while you were talking. I think I only ever saw Philadelphia once, like when it first came out. While I don't remember a lot of specifics of it, I do remember it being, it's a very well done moving film. Definitely is mainly an acting showcase. I mean, Tom Hanks obviously does a great job. I thought it was a lot of credit goes to Jonathan Demme or the producers or whoever did it to cast Tom Hanks in this role, because he hadn't really done dramas before this. I mean, some of his movies before this could be, I suppose, called dramedies, but really this is his first fully dramatic role, and they took a chance on him, and he obviously knocked it out of the park, and since then he's done so much good. But also, I mean, Denzel Washington is great. With his small part, I thought Antonio Banderas was very good in this movie. Yeah, it's a good film.
Yeah, I really like this movie a lot. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I did see it a few times, and I always, thought it was great. I don't agree with Zach that it's Jonathan Demme's like best film. I still think that's probably Silence of the Lambs, but
Defining was different than best.
All right. Defining is what you said. That's true. That is true. I think it's great. I do like, I feel like this kind of movie could be very flat and boring, but like, I actually disagree with what Kirk said, because I think that Demme's touches elevate it and make it not flat and boring for me. And Denzel Washington's character in that movie has like the perfect, like quintessential character arc, and it's like so flawlessly executed. Zach said that he really likes the beginning of the movie with the song Streets of Philadelphia, like playing over shots of Philadelphia. And he said that Dog Day Afternoon does that well too. I prefer Dog Days of Afternoon as the song that plays along with those. But I do think that it's a good song, and it's a good movie.
All right, Cody, 44.
I fucking wish an after school special was that quality. That's what I wish. On my 44, we're going to stay in the same kind of range. Probably Denzel Washington's best performance. It's Malcolm X.
You did this on purpose, right?
I wish I did. I was looking through it, and I could have moved some up and down, but I hit the 40s, and I was like, I love Denzel, and I just kept Denzel there. So that's what ended up happening. Malcolm X could be higher. It really could. But I think this is a good range for it. Again, I love the civil rights era, not because of how well it was handled, just how interesting I find it. And I think the two polar opposites of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and how they handled the entire situation. I know there are parts for it. I think the movie is overall a little long for certain areas, but I love where it goes. This is Denzel Washington's by far his best performance. It's pinned. No one will ever play Malcolm X the same way Denzel did. I think he does an absolute fantastic job throughout this entire film to show this character, this real life man, and where he took him. I watched that scene, the speech outside Herbert's Diamonds or whatever, so many times though. We were black. Basically, every time you pop a liquor bottle, it's the white man. Like, just goes and hammers it home. And I think it's just one of his all-time speeches. And if you watch it play by play, basically with the Malcolm X, it's crazy how well Denzel does it. And I just like where he takes from the starts to where he finishes. I think Malcolm X is a little long for people. I understand that they won't really like it, but I think it teaches a super important part of American history and where it was. So I could not recommend. I think this is Spike Lee's best film. I love this movie. I love Do the Right Thing and everything, but Malcolm X is the one that I absolutely love. So, yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's long, but the thing I like about it is it's almost two completely separate movies. Because you have the first half, which is him growing up and him, before he becomes Malcolm X, and him going to prison, and then his transformation. It's cool because you almost see he has like two complete like character arcs. It's like from, him, just his normal life to becoming Malcolm X, and then being like the early version of Malcolm X to becoming the latter version. So there's so much character work going on. It really, like Paul said, you have the whole breadth of his life and everything that really happened.
It's not a wasted time at all. It deserves the entire runtime it does. But I understand how some people can look at it and talk about the runtime.
But I think too, it's just very. I definitely think this is Spike Lee's most well made movie. I definitely think it's his best work. My favorite of his. My computer might die here, so I don't know why it's not charging. But there we go. Okay. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it. Like I said, this is another one where I put off for a while because of the length. But it's when I saw, I'm like, oh no, this flies by because, like I said, it's two completely different. You get two movies for the price of one with this one, and I really enjoy it. Everybody else on Malcolm X.
I really love Malcolm X, and I just like the idea of Spike Lee and hopefully other really talented filmmakers with unique visions taking on biopics, because it is just naturally going to avoid the pitfalls and the tropes of biopics because his style is so specific, and that's what makes Malcolm X stand above it, because he has at least unique perspective on how to tell us and how to deliver it. So, but this Do the Right Thing slander needs to fucking stop. You guys need to chill out.
I'll slander.
What do you mean slander?
I don't like to. I'm not generally a Spike Lee fan, to be honest with you. But this is a good movie, and I understand why it needs to be long, but it definitely feels very long. And for somebody like me who's not into Spike Lee movies, it is what it is. But now this is Denzel Washington's best performance, and he deserved the Oscar he didn't get for this one. I mean, people remember him more for the big bombastic speeches and things like that. But like you guys have already talked about, I think what made it such a great performance is that transformation, that arc from the beginning character to where he ended up at the end. And so for that, he should have got the Oscar. I have never seen Malcolm X, unfortunately. I've been meaning to for a really long time. I'm not like a huge Spike Lee guy, but I will definitely watch it at some point. I'm excited for Cody's next pick, number 43, which will be Virtuosity, I'm sure. But
watch it for the first time this year. Too close to Carbon. Let's go. Carbon Copy, though. Let's go.
All right, Ethan, we're on to you for your number 47.
All right. I had previously said something on this show that this pick will disprove because I don't know why I said it, but I said at one point that Y Tu Mama Tambien was Alfonso Cuarón's best movie. I was lying to myself and to all of you because 47 is Children of Men.
Okay. What a turn. Go ahead.
All right. Children of Men is Alfonso Cuarón's best movie. It's a really, really like I just love the concept. First of all, like I love sci-fi movies that have like a grounded, real concept and do like really big things with it. And the concept of like no women have been able to give birth for like 15 years or so, something like that. And like the world that sets up is just so great. And like the way Alfonso Cuarón shoots this movie, and the way he begins it too with like that opening terrorist attack is like it's so insane. And Clive Owens is so good. And Alfonso Cuarón has always been like he's been so good at doing really long takes. And he never feels like he's showing off. Sometimes it feels like those takes are showing off. He all of those long takes in this movie just serve to add into this, like the intensity in every scene is so crazy. I mean, that car chase scene, which is like been talked about to death, but it is just so beautiful and incredible and intense and scary. There's a couple of action scenes towards the end that are just really beautiful, unbroken shots of like this chaos going on. And this movie just does what a great sci-fi movie should do. It should like say things. It should really have like, you know, it is in touch with its themes. All the performances are great. Michael Caine's great in this movie for a little bit. It's a really sad, scary, hopeful, great movie. It's like a perfect sci-fi movie.
Yeah, you know me. I love this movie. I'm glad you corrected your incorrect statement from before, because this is definitely Cuarón's best work. I've said this before, I love mundane dystopia. I just love the world where it's like humanity is about to come to an end, but people are just kind of still like going to work and doing their routines and everything, and everybody's just depressed and sad about it, but nobody's really like doing anything crazy. They're just wake up and go through the day. And just like that opening scene where he's getting the coffee and they're listening about the kid that died. That scene's great with that. He walks out in the explosion and the way that's shot. Everybody talks about the car chase scene. I actually prefer the scene at the end where the long shot where they're going up through the steps and with the baby and everything. I think that's pretty amazing. But yeah, I love this. I'm a big Clive Owen fan. I'm kind of sad that he just fell off the face of the earth pretty much. He pops up here and there, but you don't see him that often anymore because I love the guy. I'd love to see him in everything. Michael Caine's character is great. And again, just the world building in this, just that just where humanity is because of what's happening and how people respond to it. It's just such an amazing, like you said, sad and beautiful movie. And I love it so much. Everybody else, why did you make the mistake of not having this on your top 100?
Congratulations, Ethan. You just won this week's Your List Sucks. It was his 8 on his top 100. There's no shot of any of us winning because I don't have any of those. I missed 7-1. Overall, Children of Men, I watched way too late. I wish I would have watched it for your top 100. There's just, it will probably make a reprise. I think the movie's absolutely incredible. I just waited on it way too long. But it's absolutely deserves all the hype. I think Michael Caine is absolutely insane in this film. Like, that's Michael Caine, right? Everybody just gave me a blank stare. I'm hoping it's Michael Caine. Yeah, again, don't play trivia. But that scene where they're like, he's like, pull my finger. Just like that one scene. Oh, just to let them get away. It's just so good. It's not even that long. This movie feels like it should be like 3 hours, but this movie is quick. And by the way, Kirk is a big fan of Shoot 'Em Up. It's proven on the show. He's a big Clive Owen fan, so enjoy your carrots.
At least Cuarón knows if he's going to use the title "Children of Men," it is going to be a dystopian society. That society is not going to go well if only men are raising these kids. Anyways, Cuarón might be the director I love the most that has no movies on my list. I need to do this research. I'll create a top 10 list and I'll present that later. Roma was just on my outside, which would be my pick. But Children of Men, I love Children of Men. I think just what it holds it outside like my top couple Cuaróns is I just find some of the lines a little clunky. Some of his delivery of the dialogue too, just a little clunky. But it's a beautiful movie. The world building is definitely, I think the best thing about it, the best quality about it, because it captures the starkness without it being over the top. I think there's such a tonal perfection throughout this movie of knowing how dark to take it while keeping moments of levity and action and thrills. He really knows how to, make cinematic, fun movies that are also dark and thoughtful. So it's great.
I do like science fiction movies that are like true science fiction. Like not everything has to be space and lasers and robots, things like that. It's just science fiction, and I think he does that very well here. And I actually like this movie very much when I saw it. However, it wasn't until I got to this community where I got this overwhelming love for this movie, everybody praising it to death. And if they love it, great, more power to them. I like it a lot, but I've never loved it the way other people have, so it wasn't on my top 100.
Get the hell out. Get the hell out. You don't love it as much? Go watch your Last Boy Scout. Jeez.
All right, Ethan, 46.
All right, 46. Going to continue this trend for a little bit of Kirk liking me. So this movie is Amadeus.
Amadeus. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Falco is also is great. Zach, thank you for the music reference. I love it.
Come back.
Amadeus is a perfect film. It's Milos Forman. It is like, it's one of those movies that for years and years I'd heard about it and I'd seen it. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to watch this like 3 hour long or however long it is, like period piece, like about Amadeus, Mozart, like just whatever. But I eventually had to watch it in film school, and like, little caveat here, I've only ever seen the director's cut, so I don't know how different it is, but this is me speaking about the director's cut. And it blew me away. Like, it is like this historical epic about, it's probably one of my favorite. I love rivalries in movies that are done really well, and this movie has one of the best on-screen rivalries of all time. I mean, Salieri and Mozart going at it, like, it's so good. F. Murray Abraham and Tom Hulce, incredible in this movie. The set design, like the music, like everything about it's so grand and like well constructed, but it's also got this really tight like rivalry story, and it's not very historically accurate, which is fine because it's just so good and that happened a long time ago, so who cares? But it's like so tragic and really it's like this rivalry that probably, it's just between these two guys, but it feels so big, and like these opera scenes where Salieri is watching, Mozart's performances, and these giant, like the productions that Milos Forman had to put on just to shoot these scenes. They're like giant opera productions in and of themselves, and like the fact that there's multiple ones of them in the movie, and the ending is just so tragic. It's just like, this movie is fucking incredible. If you want like just a good rivalry movie, you gotta watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, another one that I really love. My favorite thing about this movie is the relationship between Salieri and Mozart, just because of just the complete, through most of the movie, just complete different wavelengths they're on. It's like Mozart thinks Salieri is his best friend because he's completely oblivious and he couldn't imagine anyone doing what Salieri is doing. And Salieri, just as a normal human being, is reacting the way a normal human being would to him, and he can't fathom that. And I love in movies when relationships circle, they start as enemies, they go full circle into friends, because even though they're enemies, like no one else understands them or what they're going through. So like just by necessity, they become heroes, or they become friends. Yeah, that's my favorite part of this. And F. Murray Abraham's so good, and I think he definitely deserves his Oscar. And Tom Hulce just creates, like, basically out thin air, like, who knows what, nobody knows anything about Mozart or what he was like, or if we do, it's just stuff written down in books. But like, he brings that character to life, and it's completely made up, but it's still just a great, like, what you know about Mozart, you would assume he acts like that. That's what he was like. He really brings that to life so well. The music is fantastic. It's so obviously it's Mozart, but the way it's used in the movie is so well. That end scene where they're writing the Requiem is so good. And then the ending. I mean, I don't think I've ever been as devastated in a movie as just that scene where one of the greatest, geniuses of all time, his body just gets dumped in a heap, and they're playing the Requiem behind it. Man, that stayed with me for days. Every time I watch this movie, it kills me. But yeah, everybody else, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Tell me why you don't have Amadeus on your top 100.
Oh, really quick, I just want to add in before you guys go. One of the few fart jokes in movies that I enjoy.
That will be a future YLS list. Top fart jokes. I'll take credit. I hate.
I enjoy Amadeus. I will say the only thing that annoys me about Amadeus, I didn't like Tom Hulce's laugh. That annoyed the hell out of me. But otherwise, I mean, the movie's good. The music is awesome, of course. I'm not sure who did the soundtrack for this, but it's great music to it. Yeah, stupid joke. Sorry. Yeah, I actually saw it way too late too. I mean, I saw it years ago at this point, but it was way later than I should have. I was like probably 30 years old before I finally watched this movie. But great film.
Yeah, I like Amadeus a whole lot. I think it's always really smart to tell a biopic through the perspective of someone else. This will be clear with one of my picks that those who know me can expect coming up a lot later. But when you have such a person that's larger than life and so known through history, to kind of show their effect in someone else kind of puts a different perspective, a different lens on. I think the only reason why it's not my top 100 or why I truly love this one revisits, I think you do feel the length in this. I think they tread water in some spaces. I think you could cut a bit, especially the downfall seems like it goes for a while and it becomes a little miserable. And on a different note, I know how much we want to mention his name on the show. Did the Jeffrey Jones? Honestly, I think the performance of the movie, but also the true monster, not Sally Ayer. but really great performance. I think he's real funny.
I just want to say bullshit. This is just utter bullshit. That you put as 13th and 8th in this week right now. The only thing that I love is the stuff that you might have higher than these two, just to see his reaction. That will make the show. Amadeus was almost on my list. It was my last one besides, and then I talked to Koho about changing something about 2 days before. He kind of gave me this look, and I said, probably best that we don't do this. So it missed it. It wouldn't have been this range you had at the highest, but I love Amadeus. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. I love the opening, when he's playing. He's like, "Do you know this?" No. It's oh, I know this. You can just see it start and then it goes. It's such a good movie. It's the movie I had to watch for debate, and when I had to try to take it down, there's no way. So I just conceded that point for sure. So yeah, great movie, great choice.
And for Paul, I would
Still
have
bullshit.
referenced Action Hero, but it was already just a question in my last match.
That's true. That is very true.
Cody definitely knows how to play this game. Ethan, what's your 45?
All right, now Cody, I want you to just remain calm. Okay, everything's gonna be fine. I promise. Number 45 is Pacific Rim. Yes. Pacific Rim. Any X's on this one? Or no? All right. This is a movie that the first time I ever saw it, I may or may not have been under some sort of influence of something. And I saw it in theaters, and it blew me away. I love Guillermo del Toro, but this movie, it's just pure, unadulterated, fun craziness. Monsters, giant monsters versus giant aliens. It's stupid. Yes, we know. But so does Guillermo. So does everyone who made this movie. Everyone knows this is stupid, but it's fucking awesome. I've said it before on the show, I'm a big fan of cold opens in movies. This movie has a insane action sequence with a really emotional death and this big crazy thing. And then it's just boom, Pacific Rim. And you're yeah. And then you just dive in, it's got great monster design. The way Guillermo del Toro shoots this movie, a lot of the stuff with the little girl, in the flashback sequence when that giant kaiju is just walking around and she's hiding from it. It's shot it's so terrifying because you're with her, you're not with the monster. And he knows how to shoot the action scenes. You feel the slow movements, but they're still thrilling action. They feel big. They don't have that weightlessness that a lot of giant robot movies have or whatever. You watch the new Godzilla vs. Kong, fun movie, but they don't feel giant because they're just moving really fast. These monsters feel slow, but they're also fighting. It's really fun. The whole cast is great. Charlie Hunnam is not he doesn't give a great performance in this movie, but it's perfectly fine for what his character is. Idris Elba is so good. He gives a Bill Pullman speech. We're canceling the apocalypse. It's such a good speech, such a good moment. Charlie Day is fun as a crazy scientist. This movie's a fucking blast. I wish I could watch it again for the first time. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I love this movie. I think everybody knows how much I love this movie. Yeah, the opening scenes, I watched it. I was completely sober. And I was still blown away. So I don't know if I had anything to do about it or not, Ethan. But I love because a lot of movies like this, like they make you wait to for the big money shot. The first scene of this movie is just Akaju destroying the Golden Gate Bridge, like right out of the gate. And then they show you, like, they just kind of like just show you the next 10 years, 10, 15 years of what happens to humanity. It's so great because, like, it starts out like it's terrifying, and then it becomes like a T-shirt and an action figure, and nobody's worried about it anymore, and then it becomes a problem again. So it's just such a realistic way of how humanity would handle a situation like this. And yeah, you're right. Guillermo just elevates genre stuff. That's what he does. He takes something that's cheesy and silly, and he makes it better just by being him and making it his own. I love perspective in movies. I love movies with big things that seen from from down low. That scene of that you mentioned with the little girl running. That over the shoulder shot from the Kaju's perspective, looking down on her, is probably like the best thing I've seen on a screen this decade. That single shot was just so amazing. I love that shot so much, but there's so many little moments like that in the movie. And yeah, the human characters aren't great. But I mean, they're better than they are in a lot of the Kaiju movies. I mean, like Charlie Day's really good. Ron Perlman's a lot of fun. His character is really cool. And just like their little subplots, like, what they're doing, like just the fact that like they're monetizing and find a way to make money off the Kaiju. Just a lot of that, like I said, that world building in this movie is really good. It's not some deep intellectual thinker, but it's so much fun. I love this movie. Everybody else, Pacific Rim.
This fucking lifeboat, you're 44. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? This is just suck up to fucking Kirk all week. I forgot he had a 53 last. Congratulations, Ethan! I'm so proud of you tonight. I had a after school special as my my movie stuff. That was really cool. Pacific Rim, I've said this on the show. I like Pacific Rim. I really do. I think Pacific Rim is one of those things that the Transformers wish they could have done. Like they should have been able to do. What he was able to capture that second one didn't happen. We'll just say that. But this first one is a gem. Yeah, congratulations, Ethan. I'm so happy for you.
You're all fucking psychos. This movie's bad.
Oh.
Anyone who's like, what's big?
Write it down.
I go to Godzilla and King Kong because I want to see large things fight other large things. You know what else is fucking large? Anything on a fucking movie theater. Everything's big. You can't fucking tell it's big. If it was a real robot out in Madison punching shit, I'm like, I'm fucking in. But on the screen, it looks like every other fucking thing that fights on the screen. It's not that exciting. I don't really get it because usually it always evolves around like dumb, manipulative in a way that everything is contrived just to make an excuse for a reason to have big shit fight other shit when no one ever cares about the actual fucking story. Just like in this, the story doesn't matter.
Going to win.
Puts no effort into this shit. I'm going to win the heart of America. Vote for Zach Ford for governor of Wisconsin. Shit, that's a bad idea. Anyways,
I was about to say,
I love Del Toro, and he makes beautiful movies, and somehow it's all forgotten in this because it's just gray shit punching other vaguely gray shit, and it all just like in the dark. It's not great. It's like so boring in a way that used to.
Did you watch it on a black and white TV by accident?
I watch this on the big screen where everything is big. Do you know what's as big as the robot on the movie screen? When they show just a person on the screen a scene later, they're the same size. It's bad. The second one's fucking abysmal, but this one's also bad.
Nice.
I should have loved this movie. I wanted to love this movie. It seems like something that would be up my alley. I didn't though. It was okay. It was okay. Part of that's because I think Guillermo del Toro is highly overrated. Yeah, I said it. Deal with it. But people trash Pacific Rim Uprising. Not a great movie. I'm not saying it is, but it's probably on par with this one.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Leave, Brian.
I mean, come on. And as far as being believable, I mean, there's these giant monsters coming up. So with all of humanity has in creating new weapons and bombs and missiles and gun whatever. No, that's not going to work. Let's make something go over there and punch the monster. That's what we need. Put all our money into this giant things that two people have to do. The whole drifty thing was stupid, by the way. And we have to punch the monster to death. I mean, come on. It's
Gosh, I'm looking a lot better now.
I didn't buy it. Charlie Hunnam is really quite bad in it. I will say it gets points for having Charlie Day in it and Ron Perlman. Other than that,
I'm
All
looking
right.
a lot better.
So, Ethan, you're on a great roll. Let's keep it going. What's your 44?
Lifeboat. You want Godfather Part 2? What do you want to throw out? I'll tell
Cody.
you. I'll read you the list.
Cody, don't worry, you're going to be real happy right now, because this is where I undo all of the goodwill that I've built up this episode, and possibly all of the episodes.
You put something higher than. Ugh.
This is the movie that I think will single-handedly lose this entire series for me. This movie is called Marquee. This movie is
Google
about
Cody.
This movie is about the Marquis de Sade. It takes place during 18th century, the storming of the Bastille. It's Marquis de Sade's imprisoned in the Bastille in France, 18th century France. And if you're not familiar with him, he wrote the 120 Days of Sodom, Justine. He was this like famous French libertine who just wrote the most horrific, disgusting, awful things you could ever write. This movie, directed by, I think his name is pronounced Henri Genot. I'm not sure exactly. But all the characters are animals, and they're depicted as animals with animatronic animal heads. And there are these animated sequences. There's stop motion animated sequences where the Marquis is describing his these horrific, sexual fantasies he's having, and his co-star in the movie is a puppet of his penis named Colin. So he's got this penis that he speaks to, and it's the second
to the count.
movie. And I was going to tell Zach. So if you were worried that my penis count for the movies was low, this more than makes up for it, because this penis takes up like 50% of the screen time. This movie is incredibly dark and uncomfortable and distressing. Yeah, that's the Marquis as a dog, and that's his penis. He's talking to his penis named Colin. And the puppetry is great. The story is really fascinating. It's like this, like political, thing, but it's also it's exposing the hypocrisy of like French aristocrats, and it's getting down to like what's with all these libertines and stuff. And this movie is probably the weirdest movie I've ever seen. It's the weirdest movie you'll ever see, and it's so purely French and weird, but I love it. I love how balls to the wall it is. I love how crazy it is. If you want to watch a weird movie, watch this movie. I apologize, Kirk, for making you watch this movie. A little peek behind the curtain. I asked Kirk specifically. I said, of all my movies, this is the only one I request you to watch. Just watch this movie. Yeah, so I bet he loved it. I can't wait to hear what he thought of it.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's gonna love it. Cody is gonna get real mad.
Yeah. Cody, you could never question my dedication to this show, because Ethan asked me to watch this movie, and I did it. Yeah. And dear Lord, I mean, he's not kidding. The penis is the second lead in this movie. Like, it's not like just a thing that shows up and like it's like a little gag in a scene. Like, it is probably the main character, or like the secondary character. Like, he is everywhere in this movie. Like, this is the penis to end all penis for this list. Like, it's crazy. And that may not be the weirdest thing about this movie. There's opinions about movies, good movies, bad movies, and then you just seriously worry about people. Like, after I was done watching this, I was like, Ethan, are you okay? Do we need to talk? Because this is some really messed up stuff. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this goes beyond just criticized you for liking the movie. I'm worried. I mean, it's worth it though, to see Cody's face as you're describing it. He's as I'm watching him, I cannot wait to introduce Cody to this movie and just what it's all about, because he's gonna love it. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I knew more about Marquis de Sade or French history, French politics, I'd probably get a lot more of the satire, and it's probably a lot of it's probably really clever. But I don't. So it's just a weird puppet penis movie to me, and I don't know what to do about that. I'm uncomfortable talking about it. So, anybody else see this one?
This man put a penis movie above Amadeus, above Pacific Rim, above there is hope in this world. You fucked up in the best way possible. You couldn't have done this better. You took Children of Men, Amadeus, and Pacific Rim and then threw a dick in front of it. How do you do this? This is literally a person that has the game-winning touchdown in their hand, and you decided to fucking chuck it out of the stadium. This is brilliant. I never thought this movie can't be fucking real. I'm gonna be honest with you.
It's real.
I saw that, and before you even uttered the word, I was like, "That's a dick. That's 100% a dick." And then you said, "Yeah, it's a second. It's a 50% of the." I was like, "Oh God, Kirk." I'm so happy you did this show, but oh man, what the fuck, Ethan? You just literally shot yourself right before you're about to be set free. Oh, that's great.
I have seen an 80s talking penis movie called Me and Him. I've seen a sentient penis movie called Bad Johnson. And I've seen a horror movie with a killer penis called One-Eyed Monster. But I have not seen this one. Maybe I should add to it and make it a whole series.
This movie has 3,500 logs on Letterboxd, so it like does not exist. The director's name also starts and ends with an X, which is more appalling than the penis to me. That just should not be allowed. But also, like, he mentions puppetry, and I'm fucking in. This is Muppets Does Talking Penises. Let's go for it.
Yes,
I'm just really worried. I'm just really worried that Ethan's going to be able to develop a strength of dick movies that are going to be able to pop up in Warzone. I'm really pop up. That he's going to be able to put in more. This is just bad. We'll just move on. This is terrible.
I do think you're a coward. This should have been in top 10. Hey, come on.
Hey, what the hell's wrong with you? 44, you coward. You hit it at the back of this.
All right.
This is when the shit counts. Remember, Kirk? Top 50. You can't let this shit slide anymore. Dick.
Yeah, it counts, but I'm at a loss for words here, Cody. Brad, Ron,
Children of Men?
Dick.
Just remember that.
Brad, Ron, you're 47.
I just want to thank Ethan for that segue into my list, because now no matter what I put here, it's going to look good. Maybe. My 47, I guess I'm on, would be Heathers.
Good choice.
I think somebody else had this.
Ethan, oh, yeah, sorry. That was pre-X.
Yeah.
I was busy sending this link to someone.
Heathers is kind of, you take like a John Hughes teen comedy, but put a much darker edge to it. It's almost at times like Tim Burton tried to make a John Hughes movie, between the music and of course how Winona Ryder and everything. Winona Ryder, this is kind of the first like role where she kind of really broke out. I thought she kind of showed that she could be a really great actress. Christian Slater is just doing his best Jack Nicholson impression. There's no hiding that. Even he doesn't hide that. He admits it. But it worked for the role. But yeah, this is a movie that it had a very kind of biting humor to it, and a very dark humor that when I saw this when I was in high school, so it like perfect time for me, and I just really latched onto it and really liked it. I mean, the performances across the board, but mostly the story and the writing of it. I'll let Ethan talk more about it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Brian said. This movie it does have like a Tim Burton feel to it. I love it so much. It's so much fun. It's just like, it's also like, I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure there's tons out there, but I feel like if you go in the 80s and you look up like, teen comedies, like you don't have like a lot of like really dark stuff. And like, this was really dark, like dealing with like suicide and like, teenage suicide and like in a really, really funny way, which is really hard to do. And the fact that they nail it is like really impressive. I'm a huge Winona Ryder fan and Christian Slater fan. So the two of them together, and they have great chemistry. Christian Slater is such a good villain. Like he's having so much fun in this movie and you can just feel it. There was a bar I used to go to called Videology in Brooklyn, and the best drink on the menu was called I'm a Veronica, and I got it every time. And it was named after this movie because Winona Ryder has a fantastic line where she says, I'm a Veronica. Yeah, I think there was like Brian will definitely know, right? There was like a shitty like MTV like TV show they tried making of this.
There was an MTV show that was supposed to be made a reboot, and they completely changed everything. Even the maker of Heathers, like, we got nothing to do with this. But it got delayed because of like school shootings and things, because there's a lot of dark edge to it. And it finally got kind of dumped online, I think. But it's horrible. I watched one episode of it and it was awful.
Yeah, it looked like.
Yeah, like you said before, this hadn't really seen kind of something darker like this, and it's been imitated to death since then. But this was at the time.
Yeah, totally. This is like a perfect dark comedy. It's great.
Yeah, Christian Slater's really good in it. And he brings that darkness to it. I think his just the way he plays it, and what he does, he's kind of like the centerpiece of the movie. Kind of takes that whole, like Brian said, the whole '80s teen comedy thing and turns it on its air. The story's fun. It's funny. For me though, it just has too many. It still has a lot of those '80s teen comedy tropes that I hate. Just like the stock high school characters. It's just one of those like '80s scripts where it's like, I don't know, man. Like you mentioned right now, like I don't know, like what's some stuff rich people do? It's like I don't know. They play croquet and they have a bunch of statues in their yard. Like it just so like out, like it just doesn't feel real at all. And I rewatched it the other day. I was on the fence. I didn't remember this part, but Winona Ryder unironically wears a monocle throughout the movie, and that just made me completely hate her character. I just despise that character after that. Like it just really got on my nerves. So that tipped me the balance. Good 80s high school comedy as far as those go, but still too much like the ones that I dislike for me to really love it. 47 is really high. Where'd you have it at, Ethan?
I had it at 51, I think.
It doesn't matter. It's still too high. It does blow
It was 51 last week.
Cody and Zach on Heathers.
I really enjoy it. You talk, I talk. You talk, I talk. Okay. I love Heathers. I watched it for the first time this year. I really, really enjoyed Heathers. Everybody told me to stay away from this because they didn't think I would like it. It turns out I really enjoyed it. It's one-time watch, and it was very recent, so I couldn't put it on my list. But more watches, I actually really enjoy it. But hey, I didn't put it on my list, so I get no bad stuff about it. So you two fucking suck. Shitty job. Good job. Good job, Kirk. You're the best person on the show.
I have not seen it, even though it's one of my brother's favorite movies, and it seems like something I would really love. Especially after Kirk said Winona Ryder ironically wears a monocle. That sounds like the most attractive movie character of all time. I'm in.
I just as soon as you said that, I was like, what if Rachel McAdams one time wears a monocle? Zach would become 100% into a movie like that. So
I think everyone should wear a monocle. I'm gonna ask my wife. I'm buying my wife a monocle for Christmas.
All right, Brian, what is your 46?
My 46 is A Little Shop of Horrors.
Yikes.
Oh, okay. All right. My 45 then is Gladiator.
Yikes.
Okay. And 44 was, I think I yikes somebody earlier, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, don't know what you were bringing up. Cool.
So I guess I get to talk about that one. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is a movie that I wasn't sure what to expect going into this. I mean, I was on the whole, MCU train, 100%. So I was like loving everything they came out with. And then they announced this one, which I think I'd heard the title, but didn't know anything about it. And then I started looking into it, like, oh, it's got a talking raccoon and it's got a tree who only says, I am Groot. And I'm like, what the fuck is it? Because at the time, MCU was a lot more grounded. It was staying, it wasn't outer space. It wasn't, things. It was a lot more grounded. And so I saw this, I'm like, this is going to be the MCU's first flop. And then I saw the trailer for it. And it was pretty awesome. And then I went and saw the movie, and I loved every second of this movie. I mean, Chris Pratt, who previously had just been like, kind of the chubby, funny guy on Parks and Rec. I thought he was perfectly cast for this role. He kind of had a perfect personality for it. I thought Rocky Raccoon, the talking raccoon, which shouldn't work in a movie, I thought he was one of the best characters in the movie. I mean, the whole cast across the board. I'm not going to go through listing everybody, but I thought that the whole cast.
You should quote it.
But no, I'm not going to. But I think the real star of the movie is James Gunn. James Gunn, who wrote and directed this. I think that his kind of offbeat voice from his previous films, which I loved, like Slither and all the other things he had done. I thought that his weird voice coming into the MCU, this was the perfect property for him to have taken on. And they created a whole new world, which obviously the sequel wasn't as strong, but I still enjoyed it, I think, a lot more than with a lot of people. But I am real anxious to see 3 to see where that one goes. But this is just one of those movies that was such a pleasant surprise for me, and I just grinned watching this movie from beginning to end.
Yeah, it was my 87. Probably people knowing me should have been higher. The second one fucking ruins this first one. I hate the second one with a passion. The first one was is perfection to me as a comic book movie. I watched it the first night. I went back in and watched it again. I watched it back to back. I think this movie has so much heart throughout the entire movie. The music itself plays as a character,
Yes.
which I think is just brilliant what they're able to do. I think it's one of the best soundtracks to any movie ever. It may be just the music choices they choose, but I have so much fun with it. The big everybody's downside in this movie is Ronan, but again, it's not about Ronan. It's about like the characters becoming a team. It could have been anybody to play that part. It didn't matter. I just think Star-Lord, like him trying to like balance like man taken from Earth on like one of the saddest openings of any movie ever. Never gets to say goodbye to his mom, and then goes up. I love what they do with the humor in this movie, that they fail in the second one, and they fail every time after that, where they make Drax this character that just like literal things and he doesn't understand like the metaphors. Like it'll go right over his head. I know it won't. I'll catch it. Like those brilliant jokes that they waste in this one. And I think the action just works really well. Like when they steal the battery and they have to escape, and they're like, "Hey, I need that guy's leg," and they're like, I actually gave that guy money for the leg. I didn't need it. It was funny. That cast works super well. And I think it does the best thing in film history. It gives Vin Diesel 3 lines and you can't really tell it's him. So it's brilliant. Best acting he's ever done. So I'll stand by it.
Yeah, I really like this one.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, my bad.
You no. Okay.
If you know how the show works.
Never allowed back.
This is probably top 3 or 4 MCU for me. I really love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as somebody who read a lot, not this comic, but a lot of comics growing up, when they announced this, I'm like, I was vaguely familiar. I knew the Guardians of the Galaxy was a thing. I never read it, anything about it. I was really surprised this is what they decided to go with. And I don't even know if like this sticks with the tone of the comic at all, to be honest with you. Like I don't know what the tone of the original, source material was. But it was a great choice to go this way. I think James Gunn was a great get, and this was a great project to give him. I think if they had given him a more established character or a more established group that they had to take a little more serious and be careful with, you probably would have like an Edgar Wright situation where it just wouldn't have worked out because he wants to do he's somebody who would want to do his own thing. But letting him loose in this world, in this playground that I don't want to say it didn't matter, but it wasn't like anybody was like super connected to Groot or Star-Lord and would care if you got the characters wrong. And just let him loose in this. And it's a great way to introduce just the cosmic side of Marvel, which has always been like one of the most fun parts of that universe is just the cosmic and all the different aliens, species, and worlds to explore there. Great way to introduce that. Like you said, the music is amazing. Just the choice to do that on top of everything else is just really a cherry on top. And yeah, the characters, the acting, the banter, the dialogue, everything is so good. It's just so crisp and spot on. Really just a good movie. Take it out of the MCU, whatever. Just a really fun, good movie. Zach and Ethan on Guardians.
Yeah, I'm not huge on Marvel movies, but this is like my favorite one. I think I love Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the first one. Yeah, I mean everyone already touched on all those points. Like the soundtrack's great. It's really funny. Kirk said the cosmic stuff. That is my favorite part of Marvel. The visuals are really, really cool. The cast works really well. Everyone's perfect for the characters. I even like Lee Pace, right? He's Ronan. Yeah, I like him. I mean, we could have done with more of him. He's a little underdeveloped, but he's a good villain. And he's fun. Yeah, I agree with Cody completely, which is that everything this movie does right, the second one does not. I know we're not talking about the second one, but it made me disappointed because I was so excited for it after this one. And I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, I think this is still like maybe my favorite Marvel movie. It is a really sad beginning and really touching in a lot of ways that a lot of the other ones don't do it for me. James Gunn's got that style. And I hope that, his next couple movies, he can kind of go away from that silly humor that he like really overdid in the second one.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and the humorous ones to me are what superhero movies should be. The people who think that like Marvel movies have gotten too jokey and quippy, or like the man children that like fucking think they need to be so serious. And no, comic book movies are for adults.
You're the
They
guy who
need
can't
to
watch a
be
horror
serious.
movie because it's just killing and there's no emotional depth.
No, that I agree with that movie. I just think comic book movies, the purpose of it is to be engaging and fun, and they should be kind of jokey. They are silly and inherently kind of kiddish. So fucking embrace it. Be the movie that you're trying to be. I will say, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I fucking like it better. The fucking villain is a planet. It's fucking weird. The only way to even beat that is for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to have their villain being a giant talking penis, and then fucking Ethan's in. James Gunn's gonna pull that shit off. But yeah, it's great.
Well,
we also father and son plays
Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. So there you go.
Penis might be in that one. Who knows? Santa penis, Santa dick.
All right, Zach, it's your turn. What is your 47?
Speaking of Santa dicks, my number 47 is Before Sunrise. Or sunrise, not sunset.
You wrote set.
Guy, I'm in sunrise. On my letterbox list, let's double check.
You had sunrise.
Sunrise. Co-host the dumbass. I won. Okay.
He doesn't get paid. Be nice to him. I need him after the series is over.
Okay, Before Sunrise, which it's fine if it's sunset. I kind of put this as representative of the series, which I mostly did with the exception of the Muppets. Spoiler alert. And there is something to be said with what I have for anything of franchise. All tends to be the first of a series. Maybe there's something that, about me just liking the start of it all, because sequels are inherently, I don't want to say treading water, because I think the Before series are still finding new ground, but still working off territory that has been had. I came to these really late. But nothing has better understood like romantic chemistry than I think the Before series. By the way, I just see Kirk, having his head on his hand, and this is when he's going to look like the jackass, and I get to come off as the hero because this is the wrong take. This is what I said. The annals of history is going to look at me the right way. But the chemistry between Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke, which it comes off so fast, it's the first day of them showing, comes off so sincere and sexy without being explicit in its sexuality, and just raw in a way that I feel like we can feel on the everyday basis. Now, this is not necessarily how we speak, but it's how we speak if we are much more emotionally articulate and able to express ourselves and open with our true selves. It's like if our inner selves were able to come out fully, this is how we can be. It's speaking in the most rawest, truest form of ourselves. But it's written down. If I can write out every day of my life before I live it, this is how I can speak. But so it's like admirable in a way. This is in a way not just something we can see ourselves in, but something we kind of want to see ourselves in, and as how we can be a romantic partner, someone that can be so true and honest with people. And I think what they're able to do with the evolution of these characters through the series is really remarkable, because I do think they find new depth and different ages of the relationship. Julie Delpy honestly is a standout, and Frenchness is probably part of this, but she should have a bigger career in America. But I mean, she's great in everything she does, even to this day. I just great. I think having them co-write the movie, especially the later ones, really helps it come off so honest too, because they have such control of the characters. Cody, chill the fuck out with your fist. I just
know what's coming, and it's gonna be
and it's gonna be horrible, because he's just gonna make himself seem like a jackass, and I'm gonna get him a dunce cap.
No. Scott, mute if you don't want to hear the truth. Are you done, Zach?
I'm done.
Okay, listen. This movie came out in 1995. That's the year I graduated high school, and there was a type of guy back then, and it probably exists in all eras, but a very specific mid-90s type of guy who was 3 months into his freshman year and had 3 classes of his introduction to philosophy and thought he was the most brilliant guy in the world, and he was, and he was going to use all this brilliance to go pick up chicks. And he thought he had so much to say, but he really had absolutely nothing to say. And it was just
like real jealousy. Sorry.
It was just no, because I'll tell you the next thing I'm about to say, as embarrassing it is, there were times I was that guy. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was that guy. I look back on that shamefully.
Sounds relatable.
Ethan Hawke is completely that guy. I mean, he just blathers on for however long this movie on, says so much and says absolutely nothing at the same time. Just nonsensical dorm room philosophy, has nothing to offer. Like in a normal movie, his character would be like the douchey windbag that is trying to steal the girl away from the main character. But because it's a Linklater movie, the douchebag is the hero. And like if this movie approached like anything he had to say or anything that happens with any kind of like objectivity or like looked at it like ironically, but like the movie, because it's Linklater, takes itself so seriously. I think it's more, everything he's saying is brilliant, and it's not. It's just like such like generic college freshman nonsense. And I haven't watched the other two. I watched this because everybody hyped it up so much, and I watched it. I'm like, I just wasted, an hour and a half or 2 hours, however long the stupid movie is. But yeah, this movie sucks. Everybody else on Before Sunset.
I really like this film. I really like the trilogy. I enjoy the trilogy. I did not think I would like it, but I found it very, very intriguing. I believe it was overhyped for a long time, and it actually held up for me pretty well. I'm sorry that Kirk knew a guy. I didn't know this guy, and I wasn't this guy. So Ethan Hawke played well to me. But I will say I didn't have this on my fucking list. So Zach, you're an idiot. And by the way, it's a bullshit rule, and I'm just going to lay it out there right now. If anybody else has something, if you're putting the Before Sunrise or you're putting something else on your thing to qualify for the trilogy, that shit don't work here. So don't try.
You motherfucker, put the whole bloody affair.
It's a release that actually happened, and he counts it as one. You can't count 3 films as
if you travel to the New Beverly.
To be fair, I didn't mean this as a representative. Like, I didn't count my score. I meant like I'm not going to waste my list and putting other ones. I'm going to put one, but this
I'm just saying
you're going to waste one spot on your list instead of 3. Okay,
it's more. I'm just explaining why I didn't put the other ones on.
Doesn't count. So you only had this movie. Bye.
Well, I wanted to clarify that he did mean Sunrise, not Sunset, when it first came up, because for me, it's very different. Because I really liked Sunrise. Sunset, I thought was not as good, but I still enjoyed it. And by the time we got to Midnight, I was kind of like, okay, I didn't really like this one that much. It's just mostly just angry at each other the whole movie. But when this movie came out, I was in early 20s. I'm basically Ethan Hawke's age. And actually back then in this age, this is back when I liked Ethan Hawke a lot, because I mean, actually I looked a lot like him. I had the same hair and the same clothes. I actually looked like him back then. This and Reality Bites and shit like that. So this movie came out. I wish I could have been that guy, actually, Kirk. Not pseudo philosophical necessarily, but he was kind of suave. Knew how to talk to the ladies. That was not me. Shocker, I know. But this is a movie I went into really knowing nothing about, because I mean, obviously it's just essentially one long conversation, but it totally worked for me. This is like I don't know, My Dinner with Andre for the Gen X set, I guess, but it worked for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I was looking forward to the sequel. Didn't quite live up for me, but I liked it.
I have been meaning to watch this trilogy for a very long time, and I haven't yet, and I will do it soon, I promise. I went to do it recently, and I don't think they were streaming, so I was like, I'll watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space again or something.
You're better off.
I'm really surprised.
You're going to get more intelligent dialogue out of Killer Clowns than you are from this movie, I promise you.
I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised Paul left the chat right before this entire.
Yeah, I was waiting for him.
This is a moment where he would have ripped into Kirk. It would have been great.
Yeah, he would have been wrong too, but okay. Zach, what is your number 46?
Number 46 is 1967's The Producers. This is my favorite Mel Brooks movie. I like Mel Brooks a lot. That humor really works for me. I think this one is the least. It's like not a parody movie. It's the most coherently a story, which is not necessarily like what I look for, but I think it helps it function in a way. But I think his exaggeration of the characters, the eccentricities of the characters, is just like every single one works, and every single one is like super funny. And they, like every 40 minutes they introduce someone new. That's just hilarious. I think like low key, my favorite performance, which I don't have on the top of my head, but is who during the casting, this like kind of flamboyant drug addict, over the top guy going for the lead. It is just so hilarious in everything he does. And then, of course, having Kenneth Mars as like Nazi, I think that Mel Brooks, if anyone's going to pull off Nazi humor, it's him, having it like so earnestly told within this musical. But I think the highlight of this movie is it starts off with like a 25-minute long scene of Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder just kind of like hatching their scheme together, and it just establishes their comedic chemistry perfectly. Zero Mostel, no one gives the energy of like a showbiz sleaze better than that guy is able to do. I think he really works within it. But Gene Wilder is one of my favorite comedy actors of all time. I think his like dweebishness within this is a perfect counteract to that Zero Mostel over the top energy. And especially when Gene Wilder gets to shout in his nervousness, the like 3-minute scene of, I'm angry, upset, and I'm wet, and I can't remember fucking quotes, but it's just like, I say this is one of my favorite lines, and I can't say it, but it is one of my favorite lines, favorite moments. I think he just has, the perfect energy for what Mel Brooks is able to deliver. The movie's hilarious. I actually have not seen the musical. I'll be watching it soon. But I think it works with the spare songs it has. It has, kind of a weird pacing inside with the long scenes, but it really, functions. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I like this. I like this better than the musical, the stage musical, and the movie version of the stage musical. I think this is the best version of this story. You guys know I'm not a big fan of parody movies, so I like Mel Brooks better when he's just telling original stories and bringing his own original humor to it instead of trying to knock something else off. But yeah, it's a fun story. Gene Wilder is so perfectly cast in this. It's just that kind of his neuroses that he brings out in his characters is so perfect for this. And Zero Mostel is really good as the foil to that, like Zach was saying, and like you said, just the idea of taking the worst possible thing of the story about Hitler and making that their failure and really just going for it is a lot of fun. So yeah, this is a pretty good one. Everybody else on the producers.
I need to try and watch this one again sometime because first of all, Mel Brooks, with very few exceptions, Mel Brooks movies suck. They are just horrible. They are not funny. This is a guy who everything is just puns and dad jokes, and it's just I really do not like Mel Brooks' brand of humor at all. One of the few ones that worked for me though was Young Frankenstein. So you got Mel Brooks, you got Gene Wilder. I thought I'd like this one. I think I sat through like Zach was talking about that 25-minute opening scene, and I didn't laugh at all. And so I think I finally turned it off. So I've never actually watched this whole movie. So maybe someday I'll give it another try.
I've only seen the remake of this movie. And I know this is not fair to this movie because I haven't seen this movie, but I don't like the remake. But I will watch this one at some point.
I absolutely love the remake. So if I could do something, and if I could make a movie where I take Gene Wilder and put him with Nathan Lane, it would be like the dream for me. Because I love Nathan Lane. I don't like Matthew Broderick in this one, and I love Gene Wilder, and I'm not a big fan. I can't think of the actor's name, but yeah, I love the musical. I love I love this movie too. I love both of them. I think they both work really well. But yes, it's the hustle. I'm hysterical. I'm wet and I'm in pain. Though just Gene Wilder doing that entire thing is just brilliant. When he's it just slowly adds. It's what do I do? Get the hell away! Get away from me! And the springtime for Hitler stuff, that stuff just it just works. It just works so well with Mel Brooks. And I'm not a big Mel Brooks fan comedy either, but the producers just is something I can get behind. But yeah, I'm sadly in the camp that I really like the remake more than this one. But hey, they're both good.
All right, Zach, what is your number 45?
My 45, my only Hitchcock one here is Vertigo. This is my the annals of history will look at me correctly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Vertigo has an atmosphere that I really go for because it has like this supernatural, ghostly atmosphere without actually being a supernatural story at all. But it kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat, keeps you, the mysteriousness around to keep you engaged. But it doesn't need to go there. It's like our real life and our real world mysteries can feel unreal and feel surreal, at other times. But I think primarily it's just like Hitchcock firing on all levels. The, cinematography, the angles he uses throughout the movie, and the score all create the suspense, the romance to perfection. This is, top tier filmmaking. And I think surprisingly the chemistry between James Stewart, and I'm going to say the wrong Hitchcock actress. I just noticed I'm avoiding it. I was going to say Kim Novak, right? Yes, going with it. Okay. Kim Novak and I almost said Vera Miles. Between Kim Novak and James Stewart, even though I'm sure there's like decades apart because that's how Hitchcock movies work, it is like pretty fiery. It functions, which creating romantic chemistry with James Stewart I think is pretty hard. But I think to give that credit to Kim Novak a little bit, but especially to this hyper romantic score flying throughout it. And it's one of the best climaxes on the film. And it ends really abruptly, but in a very satisfying way, in a very unexpected way. And I think it's just his most complex movie, complex both in tone, both in themes, and just like something that has new layers story-wise to kind of gather every time, new pieces to pick up on every time. Saw it in theaters, I think that helps a lot. Hitchcock should run in theaters every year, but it's great. So.
Okay, I know I'm in the minority here. I know this is considered one of Hitchcock's best, so one of the best movies ever. But this movie is kind of boring. The story, I agree with Zach. The premise and the story is great, but there's just a lot of Jimmy Stewart driving around San Francisco looking confused in this movie for long periods of time.
Sounds lovely.
I don't know if I hope Joseph's still in the chat because I know he'll back me up on this. Yeah, and the thing, I mean, there's Hitchcock I like better than others, but this is the only Hitchcock movie that ever bores me. And because I just watched it recently, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I thought, well, maybe my take on it is right. I watched it like, wow, I just don't get it. And even Jimmy Stewart, Jimmy Stewart's one of my favorite actors. For me, not to be interested in what he's doing is pretty crazy. But yeah, this movie there's a lot of like meandering, just kind of aimless. As he's trying to figure out, I think I know most people agree with you, Zach. Most people think this is Hitchcock's best work, but I think this is him kind of just failing at what he does because I'm so not interested in so much of it. And the ending, I don't want to spoil it. We can talk about it off the air. What I don't like about it, you'll probably understand by what I say, but it's I feel like it's supposed to be satisfying, but it's very unsatisfying just because of certain things that happen. But yeah, this is definitely on the bottom tier of Hitchcock for me. Everybody else on Vertigo.
You in that minority, in that I find this movie extremely boring. I don't even find the story that interesting at all. There are Hitchcock films I like. I think earlier in the list we were talking about Rope and how that was one of the ones I enjoyed. But this one, like you, I'd heard so much about it, and when I finally watched it, I'm like, really? That's the one people love?
Kirk, I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you because that was what I was going to say about this movie. That Jimmy Stewart is just fucking walking around for 2 hours doing nothing. I had heard about this movie for years, much like you guys, and how it is one of the best, most suspenseful movies ever. Hitchcock's best movie. And I had never seen it, and I'm like, man, I got to fucking watch Vertigo. And I just never did. And then in film school one day, the professor's like, hey guys, we're watching Vertigo. And they had like a screening room, so it was a big screen, I was like, yes, finally. Like, I'm being forced to watch this movie. I'm going to love it. It's going to be great. And I was like, what is happening? Like, it's, first of all, the ghost supernatural thing that isn't supernatural or whatever. Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on with that. It's just like, it goes nowhere. It's, like Kirk said, it's just Jimmy Stewart meandering around the city for a long time, and I hate the ending. I think the ending is so stupid where he just like, I won't spoil it, but it's just like, I just think it's stupid. I don't like this movie at all. I don't understand at all. I think this is one of Hitchcock's worst movies that I've seen, at least. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when people love this movie. I don't know.
I'm fucking pissed off because Kirk and Ethan told what I was going to fucking say about this movie. I'm so like, I gave it. I looked at my score just to make sure I wasn't correct. I gave it 3.5, and I think I was on crazy pills when I gave that score because I just remember everybody. I just remember somebody on this exact program. It wasn't this episode, but when we said rope, he said, well, that's an insane take. And you walk in here with vertigo and act like you're just this righteous person. This is the most confusing thing. This is the most confusing thing. The ones that are considered Hitchcock's like Mount Rushmore, I just no. I don't understand this movie at all. I don't know. I wish I had the lens that everybody else was seeing this movie in. But when I watched it the first time, I was bored to tears. I watched it a second time, and I think I was just guilt-tripped into 3.5 stars because I'm thinking more and more. It's 2.5, maybe 2. I was bored to effing tears. And you're right. If I want to watch Jimmy Stewart drive around all San Francisco, like, I would just like to watch a home video of him driving around because this movie goes nowhere. Oh, my gosh. I don't understand this. Like, thank God. So 4 people, we get 5 people in a room. 4 people agree. 1 person doesn't. Well, who's the insane one? You, sir.
Two of them are being Brian, so.
Yeah, Muppets Man. Wrong.
Yeah, you don't want to side with both Kirk and Brian. That's a
And me. I mean, the three of us did it.
I mean, if Jimmy Stewart whipped out his penis and it was a puppet, maybe we have a shot of it. Okay, we don't have that.
We're moving the fuck on. I host a show now. This is the biggest disaster that's ever happened.
That's absolutely not true.
Own all of fucking Multiplex. Yeah, you guys are all canceled because this is a crime against humanity. My 44. My 44, way too goddamn low. Because I rewatched it for the pod, the Z-Pod recently, and it should be in my top 25. But it is The Lady Eve. Keeping it old. The Lady Eve is one of the hottest movies ever. Okay, it is about sexy people on a boat for 45 minutes. Then it's about sexy people at a house party for the last 45 minutes. And no one has ever looked better than Barbara Stanwyck, but it's also just part of how she carries herself because she carries herself with such charm and such intelligence. Barbara Stanwyck is one of my favorite actresses of all time, so we just talked about it for a whole month because I think she is exudes this very specific kind of street smart intelligence that helps you understand why everyone is just kind of brought into her brought into her like praising her almost, but because she's really good being matched with a dope. That's kind of the opposites attract kind of thing. Because Henry Fonda is playing this kind of innocent, dopish, rich boy who's just like really into snakes, and so she's just the full opposite, this hyper confident, worldly person and con artist. Essentially, we talked a lot about how Barbara Stanwyck is always up to a scheme in the con. But the romance of it works because they know when to abandon the con and not make her a villain like pretty quickly on. And so it's all how can they make up, to where she has to create another con to earn his heart hid back, which is like could be this preposterous thing that she like pretends she's this different person without changing that much about her. But the way she's able to act and how smartly the screenplay is written makes you understand and believe how he might like fall for this, especially because he is kind of a dope, that he falls for seeing her a second time not thinking she's the same person. But really, this is a Preston Sturges movie. Preston Sturges has, a real intelligent wit to his comedies. That this one is by far the best because I also think he's just, as I mentioned earlier, it's just such class throughout this. And just a lot of these older comedies have these kind of supporting actors that look like nothing we have anymore. They just have these very specific looks and these very specific styles. Eric Blore plays this, rich, like British conman that just gives terrific lines. Her dad, who is played by what's his face? That's his official IMDb name. What's his face? Charles Colburn is also just has the right level of con artistness to him, but also charm and intelligence, like I've been saying. It's an incredible movie. I could watch this every fucking day. It makes me want to watch more Barbara Stanwyck, more like I could turn this on immediately when I finish. There's also snakes. The snakes are cool as shit. I'm done.
I never heard Henry Fonda really referred to as sexy before. You know,
he is in this movie.
That juror number 8 sure is sexy. Yeah, I watched this on Criterion Channel this week. It's one of those early romantic comedies. Still has all the pitfalls of romantic comedies. My favorite scene in the entire movie is when they're setting him up for the call. It's I don't know if you mentioned it's the story is her father. It's a father-daughter con team, and they're trying to play him. She falls from decides she doesn't want to do it. My favorite scene in the movie is when the dad and Henry Fonda are playing cards, and they're both like trying to cheat each other. Like he's trying to cheat Henry Fonda. She's trying to keep him from cheating him. So they're both like switching cards and screwing each other over, and they're trying to keep, but without his knowledge. That's my favorite scene in the movie. And I'm watching like, oh, this would be really cool if this is the rest of the movie. The two of them, the cat and mouse between the two of them, with him completely oblivious. But that's basically just one scene, and they give up. All the cat's out of the bag. The next scene, and it just becomes like a standard romantic comedy. I don't buy at all the third act where she comes back as a different character, does nothing to change her appearance, puts on a little bit of an accent, and everybody believes she's a different person. That was kind of nonsensical to me, and it kind of just sucked me out of it. And the ending is just so generic, and just wrap it up, just like, okay, we got to finish this movie up, and it ends. So yeah, it's kind of just like a generic rom-com that for me. I don't really buy Henry Fonda as in this kind of role. Like, I mean, it's not his fault. I'm so used to him playing like more dignified characters. To see play something like this really just caught me off guard, and I really didn't like to see him in that. So yeah, this one is going to be kind of a thumbs down for me, especially this high. I think there's much more, romantic comedies of this era, or just kind of comedy of this era that are so much better than this that you could have on your list. So 44 is incredibly high for this. Everybody else on Lady Eve.
I've never seen it, but Zach said. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say I haven't seen it, but I'm intrigued mostly because one of the reviews on Letterboxd from someone in our community says, like Bugs Bunny dressing up as a girl bunny to mess with Elmer Fudd, but somehow even sexier. So,
yeah, I haven't seen it, but Zach, you said everyone in this movie is sexy, so I have one question for you: are the snakes sexy?
The snakes are real sexy.
Okay, I'll watch it.
There's a cartoon snake that wears a fucking top hat in the end credits and open credits.
I'm in.
I really like her in Double Indemnity. I haven't seen a whole lot of her in anything else, but I will check it out because her and Henry Fonda sounds like a good pair. So, yeah.
Qualifier.
You can't fault old romantic comedy tropes when it was in the 40s and they were like one of the groundbreaking people to do it. Like,
yeah, they started it.
They started the
problem.
Tropes. You don't blame them for the stuff they started.
Well, you can't blame.
They did it well. They did it well in the beginning. It wasn't a trope back then.
I don't know. I could have talked. Yeah, I could have talked about that movie for another 9 minutes. It's like I did on LNZ Pod on Video Store. Listen to it.
Shut up. No plugs. No plugs.
We don't plug on the show.
Sorry, that brings us to everybody's top 3 for the night, starting with Cody at his number 43.
Remember when we used to do plugs on the end of every show? I'm glad we stopped that shit. Okay. My 43 is, let me get to it. It is Good Will Hunting. No yank? Okay. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. Is it Boston? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe go fuck yourself. I'm not sure. Is Robin Williams giving one of the best dramatic performance probably of the 90s? Yeah, I'll say it. I think he's absolutely incredible in this film. Just the heart that he's able to deliver. I will always love the scene, and again, I may be a little biased, when they're talking about Game 6 of the World Series, and he's sitting there, he's like, oh yeah, he hits the ball, and he's like throwing it a thing. He's like, you were at that fucking game. No, I was out on a date with her. You missed the game. Yeah, I didn't give a damn. He's like, I passed off my tickets. How do you pass on that? Because just how it's just important, like
how he's able to show, like, teach Damon about what, like, when you care about somebody, the rest of it doesn't matter. And when he pushes everybody away, and when he thinks that that's that, like, when they're on the bench, and one of the best monologues of all time is William saying, "How the fuck can you tell me, because you've seen a painting to me of what I was supposed to do about when I sat with my wife and where I held her hand and when she was on chemo and when the visiting hours didn't matter to me." Like, I don't sit there and act to know that, you going through a foster care and you being adopted and stuff like that didn't have effect on you. I think Williams I wish he did more dramatic stuff, because he did, and they're not all great, but I wish, like, he did more in this realm. Like, I just think it's absolutely a brilliant movie. I slept on this movie for way too long. I thought, oh, it's just middle of the road, it's fine. No, the heart of it, the crux of the story, those two dynamics, even the friends relationship. I think it's Minnie Driver. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Like, her performance in this is like when he just shoves her out of the way, and like she's just trying to cling to him, but he doesn't know how to cling to somebody as that thing. He's so smart, but he doesn't know how to, like, interact with people, and how Williams is able to bring that out of him. I think this movie, it's just beautiful. I absolutely love Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, Williams is definitely the centerpiece of this movie. I think it's his best role. I've said before, and I know I'm in the minority with this one too. Like, I'm not a big fan of what Robin Williams' comedy. I much prefer him as a dramatic actor, and I think this is his best dramatic role. In that it keeps like that lightheartedness, and that charm, and that humor that he has, but it's grounded, and it's a real person, and it's a great role and a great performance. I think it's one of the best, just like mentor protege relationships. And yeah, like those scenes where he's talking about his wife and talking about the baseball game, and just teaching him to enjoy, like, and appreciate the little things in life, and what matters is so good. I like Affleck in this. I think he's fun. Like, he's fun as that, like, comic relief best friend. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but those are two things I remember the most from it. I do think 43 is a little bit high for it. But again, that just maybe because I haven't seen it in a while. So everybody else on Good Will Hunting.
All right, yeah. I haven't seen it in like a really long time. I really liked it when I first saw it, but it's been so long that I don't remember much about it other than like Robin Williams being really good. The How Do You Like Them Apples scene. But I'm sure if I rewatched it, I would still like it a lot. It's just been so long.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing here. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I mean, despite Gus Van Sant directing and despite the presence of Ben Affleck, I actually liked this movie. I thought it was very well done, and especially there's a lot of those speeches and things that really could have come across as very, I don't know, artificial, unnatural in the way they deliver them, kind of like, in a lot of Kevin Smith kind of dialogue kind of thing. But especially when these guys basically wrote it themselves, so it really could have come across as kind of like that. But I thought it actually was very well done, and yeah, well, I just need to rewatch it though.
I think Gus Van Sant was the perfect person they could have got for this, because I think in the wrong director's hands, there's someone who's less, I think, humane than Gus Van Sant and patient than Gus Van Sant. It can come off just super schmaltzy and sentimental, but he just knows the levels to pull it to avoid that. So I really love this movie. I look forward to rewatching it at some point, because I've only seen it once, and I'm a huge Robin Williams fan. So yeah, good pick.
That's a good Weinstein movie too, right?
Thank you, Brad.
We already talked about Jeffrey Jones.
That takes us to Ethan's 43.
Yeah, my number 43 is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Just for the whole trilogy?
This is just for The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I will not be talking about the other two. Yeah, I love this movie. Lord of the Rings has a very special place in my heart. I've always loved those movies since I was young. And I'm not sure about this, but I remember, like, when I was a kid, my dad, like, bringing home this on DVD, and I think I watched this one before I had seen The Fellowship or something. I'm not sure, but that it feels like that is how that happened for me. But this movie has so much incredible fantasy action in it. Obviously, the Battle of Helm's Deep is like one of the best action sequences ever filmed. Peter Jackson is, coming from those horror roots with like Brain Dead and Bad Taste, and like applying that to a giant big budget fantasy movie is just like so good. everyone in this movie. I mean, it's hard to talk about without talking about the other ones, but I'm just going to stick to this one. All the characters are great. This is the one where we get introduced to Gandalf the White, who is a different character. You know, he's a little different. And Theoden King. It's just like, it's got so many great emotional moments. The score by Howard Shore in this movie is like transcendent. It's like there's a song towards the end, or a piece, I guess, called Samwise the Brave. It's played over Samwise's speech at the end, which is also intercut with Merry and Pippin and the Ents like storming Isengard. And that whole sequence is one of my favorite sequences in film ever. It just comes together so beautifully. Like, it's so good that they like cut away to Gollum, and even Gollum's like looking at him like misty-eyed because it's just such an incredible speech. And Sean Astin is just like, that's the peak of his career right there. Yeah, I mean, this movie's just got like some of the best moments in the trilogy. Like the moment I just talked about, all the end stuff I love. I know people think it goes on too long. I like all the end stuff. I want more of it. I always watch the extended edition, so I get all that sweet Ent talking, Ent moot, the slowness of it. Love it. John Rhys-Davies doing his best Ent voice is great. He's also great as Gimli in this one. You get the you have to toss me line. Like, it's just such a great fantasy movie. I love everything about it.
I always try to figure out which one of these movies I like the best, and I think it just comes down like they're basically all tied for me. But this one's good. You get the wrap up and the big climatic stuff in the third one. The first one's a lot of the introductory, and this one's just, you know, a lot of action. The Helm's Deep battle's great. The Ents are my favorite things in all three movies. I love the Ents. So that makes this one of my favorites, just because I love Treebeard. I love the Ents. I love the Ent movie. Just the whole like, just the little bit of, like, the peek into their culture and their worldview is so great. I just love like how they think like trees would think. Like, they think like in, you know, over eons and epochs of time, and, you know, the goings on of right this second isn't that big a deal to them. I just like those little. Oh no, that's the next movie. Never mind. But yeah. So a lot of cool stuff going on in this one. Everybody else on Two Towers.
Two Towers is my favorite one. I'm with Ethan on this one. I love the trilogy. I think they're close in things. Like, I love what the first one sets up, and I love the ending. But the middle one is just so good. It's probably the one I watched the most out of order too. It's kind of weird how that worked for me. I guess it just came like just the battle scenes and just I think the characters are more developed in this one. I think they knew exactly where they were going, and they already fleshed out all the introductory shit. So we're just like in it now in the Middle Earth stuff. I'm with you. I love the Ents. I have no problems with this entire movie. The one thing I've never done is watch the extended editions. I just have never gotten around. I want to. It's a lot of commitment to watch the extended. It's a lot of commitment to watch Lord of the Rings, but to watch extended is just more. But I love the trilogy. If I was going to put one on here, it's the hard thing about trying to decide which one. It would have been Two Towers, but where to put it and how much I love it and stuff. I think it's a great movie. Great choice, though. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Just spoiler alert for my list, or non-spoiler list. There's none of the Lord of the Rings movies on my list. I like them a lot. I don't love them like a lot of people, but I enjoy them, but just not my thing.
Fair enough.
I forgot that I had to speak too. I notoriously fell asleep during every Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movie in theaters. For like a long period of time, because I was like 12, 13, 14, had some real like undiagnosed ADD, and if I couldn't pay attention, I just fell asleep. And so that's what happened with those. I plan on rewatching them. My wife really wants to, and then we just haven't got down because it's a 30-hour commitment. But at some point, I'll give it another try.
All right. Brian, what's your 43?
My 43 is Braveheart.
Glad we got to always talk about it.
Yeah, so Braveheart, this one came along at a time when I was kind of just starting to get into more serious movies. You know, I was, younger kid and that I was mostly into, usual blockbusters, comedies, things like that. So this one came out and I was like, it's about this, Scottish guy who's fighting for his freedom. I don't give a shit about this. And especially came out like right around the same time, right before Rob Roy. And I'm like, why do we care about these movies? But anyway, it's Mel Gibson. Thought, I like him. I'll go see it. Mel Gibson knocked it out of the park with this movie. I mean, this movie is amazingly, his performance in it is great, but his direction of it is even more impressive, especially, I mean, from even just the smallest character moments to these big, giant, battlefield battles, which really before this point hadn't really been done to this scale. This was kind of one of the first movies that really kind of did that, giant field of people fighting. It's been done 1,000 times since then, of course. But the choreography of that and the filming of that and the cinematography, I thought was so well done. It's got a great score by James Horner, which it's kind of James Horner kind of has a very identifiable sound to him, but it adds that kind of Scottish flair to it as well. The supporting cast from Sophie Marceau, Patrick McGoohan, Catherine McCormick, Angus McFadden as Robert the Bruce. I thought he did a great job. And of course, it's one of the first places we saw Brendan Gleeson, who obviously has gone on to be in a ton of awesome movies. But yeah, this is one I think Mel Gibson's one of those people is kind of a hot topic with depending on who you talk to these days because of his, personal life and things like that. But I mean, this is a movie that kind of showed that while he can be an entertaining blockbuster actor, he's also got a ton of talent as a director and as a serious filmmaker.
Yeah, I really love Braveheart. This was on my top 100 somewhere. When it came out, it was, if not my favorite movie, it was one of my favorite movies for a long time. Yeah, it's so great. It's just a lot of great action, all those big fight scenes, but just a lot of great character moments too, and a great story. Mel Gibson's great, and it's a supporting cast, like you said. Everybody, even the small, like Brian Cox comes and plays his uncle. Brendan Gleeson's got great. I don't remember the actor's name, but the guy that plays the Irishman, it's My Island. He's so good in it. And just so many little moments like that, and just that ending, and just the whole, Robert the Bruce and his story, and where he ends up is just really great. So yeah, I'm a really, really big fan of Braveheart. Everybody else on this one?
Yeah, Braveheart is something. Well, Mel Gibson is somebody you're not supposed to talk about. Apparently, I love this film. I'm so glad that you included it. It was so close to making my list. I love Braveheart. I have so much fun with this. I think his direction is absolutely incredible. I actually like a lot of Mel Gibson's directed work. I don't actually have a lot of problem with most of it. I think he's actually a really good director. There are certain things that I understand that like Hacksaw Ridge and stuff like that, but I really like the Apocalypto and stuff like that. So, like, his work, I think, is good. This movie and the character he portrays is over the top. It's crazy. It's fun. A lot of people say it's that scene where, he's given the speech and then that's about it. But I think the stuff at the beginning to the middle, I just love Braveheart. I just haven't watched it in a while. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it, so that's why I probably missed. But if I watched it before, it could have made my list. Great choice. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Ethan, did you go?
Oh no, did Zach go already? Oh no, okay.
Zach hasn't seen it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I've only seen parts of it my whole life. I've just never sat down and watched the whole thing all the way through. I feel like I would like it because I like big war movies like that. I just haven't seen the whole thing.
It's better than Vertigo. I'll say that.
I bet.
Oh, don't make it worse.
All right, Zach, on to your 43.
My 43 is Francis. Ha! Thank you for the late laugh. I love Noah Baumbach, and as he's one of my favorite directors, I love Greta Gerwig. She's one of my favorite creatives. He puts them together. It's like a match made in heaven. And also you put them together and you get the future forced adoptive parents of my child when I trick them into adopting Theo so he can be raised as a genius of film. And he'll be better off.
Do you think so? Have you seen Noah Baumbach's movies? He has some issues to work out.
Yes, that means he's learned from his past. That I have seen his movies.
Made the same movie about the Force like 4 times. I don't know if he would.
And I love him because I went through the same shit. So is he better as me, someone who isn't like intelligent enough to deal with those issues? Greta Gerwig. I think people like who are really dismissive of this film would just say it's like a Pixie Dream Girl, which I think is always a dismissive term because she captures not only like many friends I had in college, but also a lot of what my experience was like post college. I think this movie really captures the identity of kind of being lost after because college is really a time where you come to learn a lot about yourself and you come to meet your friend group, and then it just kind of all goes away, and you have to like figure your way into real society. And she really captures that kind of confusion and that kind of maintaining of what your dreams were. Like she just wants to fucking dance, but how does that work in the reality? And she's really close to her friend and live with them, but like everyone evolves and kind of moves on, and those friendships change. And I think that no movie has grasped that smarter, I think, than this. And even to this day, when I'm 10 years past college, I still like feel some of the remnants of these experiences that this movie continues to capture, while simultaneously being extremely funny, having terrific lines, great dialogue. So it's Noah Baumbach. And it's beautifully filmed. It kind of has this Manhattan-esque black and white filming of New York City, but in a much more modern way. It has a lot more, motion to it than most Noah Baumbach movies. Noah Baumbach's known for his writing, as much for his filmmaking cinematography. But if you want to see that he knows what he's doing, this is the one to see, because he really can capture a great shot. And I think it will have a universal and timeless appeal. It's an experience that everyone will go through for decades. So I think this will be one of his best remembered movies moving forward. So,
all right, Zach, we're back on the same page here, buddy. I know we had a rough patch here, but I love this movie. I just watched this for the first time this year. I think it was when I played Ethan and Scott. They used Baumbach as their strength. I had a deep dive the first time I saw this movie. I wanted to see it for a while, but I wasn't expecting too much from it. I loved this movie. It is so good. Greta Gerwig is just so fantastic. And she's so charming in this. And she captures that, like you said, that lostness and that listlessness and that state of arrested development she's in. And she just pulls you on board. And, you root for her, you feel for her. And she's just so, I just love that character that just, she's not necessarily peppy and positive and optimistic, but she just keeps battling on and going on. Whatever life throws her, she's like, okay, what's the next thing? And she just deals with it. And yeah, like you said, her relationships with her friends are so great. They're so realistic. Her friend who she's real close to, and then they're just, people just come in and despair for your life. That's how life works. Just with Adam Driver is really good in this too. And, their whole relationship, that roommate life that they have is really cool. The scene where she goes to France, where she ends up going to Paris, and it just completely just bombs for her, and is just so disappointing. It's just so heartbreaking. But there's some. I like this movie so much. I watched it for trivia. I studied for trivia. The next day, I made my wife and daughter sit down and watch it with me, and I thought they would love it. But they're like, "Oh man, I felt just a downer. Everything's bad happening to her." But I just love the fact how she just keeps up and keeps going. And you're right; it is a fantastic looking movie. I love that scene. Where they're playing Modern Love, and the camera's tracking along, and it catches up to her running. Oh, that is such a great looking scene. I love the way this movie looks. Yeah, this is a great pick. Good job, Zach. I'm proud of you. Everybody else on Francis Ha.
I have not seen it. I Noah Baumbach is very much not my style of movie, so I haven't seen it. I've been told I actually might enjoy this one, but still haven't got around to it yet.
I've watched a couple of his films and I really enjoy them. Paul has told me numerous times to stay away from this film, so he thinks I would hate it. It's not that I don't want to complete Noah Baumbach. I actually really enjoy. There's a few that I'm pretty sure some will show back up, I think, but if I know Zach pretty well, but it's I just been told not to watch it, so maybe I'll go check it out one day.
Yeah, I've only seen like one or two Baumbach movies, and I like them a lot. But I've been meaning to watch this for a long time. I just haven't got around to it yet. But I definitely will watch it soon.
Brian,
if Kirk likes it, it gives me more faith that I would like it. So
yeah, I think if you like other Baumbach, I feel like this is probably his most accessible movie. So I think Brian, I think you should give it a chance. I think you'd like it because you might. I mean, I couldn't guarantee it, but
I mean, I think I've liked 4 of his films that I've seen, so I don't see why.
But Cody also hates Greta Gerwig, and this is a lot of Greta Gerwig.
Why did I say it? When did I ever say I hated Greta Gerwig?
Fucking Lady Bird. This is what you're most famous for.
Yeah,
she wrote this movie.
I mean, Lady Bird's a shitty movie right now. I still haven't seen it, but it's a shitty movie. Let's just move on, okay? Come on.
All right. Did everybody talk about this? I'm not skipping anybody, am I? Okay. Cody, you're number 42.
42 is Mystic River. I fucking love this movie. The fact that I hadn't seen it till like it was last year, and I've watched it like 3 times since. I think this movie is absolutely incredible. Sean Penn deserved his Oscar. I stand by it. Tim Robbins deserved his Oscar. You can take that pirate bitch that sails around on a ship, and he did not deserve to win this, Koho. I'll stand by it. Sean Penn gives a better performance besides "Is that my daughter?" He's way better throughout this film. This movie has so many twists and so many turns. If the last 30 minutes of this movie doesn't make your stomach drop, I don't know how you can sit through this movie. Fuck off. Kevin Bacon, which I'm not always a huge fan of, Sean Penn and Tim Robbins. I think Tim Robbins is absolutely stunning in this movie. Just how it's a dark movie again, but that fits my kind of thing. It's like a crime movie. Sean Penn being kind of like a mob boss in that whole thing, and the twists and turns. I think this is Clint Eastwood's best directed film. Maybe Unforgiven I give him. But I think this is absolutely his best film. And I think I don't want to give too much about the story because the story is like a little bit given. The whole movie will be unraveled for you. And I gave it to Tim Brzakala, and he goes, last 30 minutes, I don't know how I feel about this. Just keep watching. Enjoy your ride. It's so good. So good. Go watch Mystic River. I think it's still on HBO. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. It's hard to watch. I mean, it's just one of those movies just so devastating that you're like it's good, but
especially as a parent.
So exactly. So but yeah, they're both great in this, and just that I love Penn's character, like you said, how he's kind of like he's got a lot of sharp edges to him. He's got a lot going on, and then just the history of their childhood and how that plays into what happens and what he thinks and what he has to do.
And Tim Robbins' wife, I can't really say her body language in this movie as it slowly starts to descend is so crazy. Yeah.
Like you said, it's hard to talk about without giving anything away because there's a lot of, like you said, twists and turns. But it's just such a good story. It just grabs you. So like I said, it's not something I'm eager to rewatch just because it is so hard to watch. But on the other hand, there's so much good stuff in it that I want to see again. But it's solid. Everybody else on Mystic River.
I saw it when it first came out, but I honestly, you're talking about twists and turns, I don't remember any of them. So I kind of want to rewatch it again. It's partially because of your enthusiasm for how great it was, because I don't remember the twists and turns of it. So I got to check it out again.
I have not seen Mystic River.
I think you'd like it.
Yeah, I would do want to watch it. It's like one of those that's just like I've heard about so many times, and I'm like, I'll watch that eventually. And, you just never do. I do want to watch that now, especially after you guys talked about it.
I think it's take place in Boston too. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is too.
It does. Because it's written by Denzel Washington, all they take in Boston. Anyways, I really love Mr. I haven't seen it in forever, but it is. I'm scared to watch it and not like it, not because I think I won't like it, but because it's like one of the few movies me and my wife agrees on because she has shit taste and like shitty movies, and she's exhausted with me hating her favorite movies.
Join the club. Oh,
yeah.
Must be a big Gary Wilder fan.
No, she's a big What Dreams May Come. That's a fucking disaster. Anyways, Mystic River, I loved it then, but Denzel Washington is one of my favorite writers, which I think is unexpected for me because he is a crime writer, but I think his writing as well as this movie takes what could be trashy kind of pulpy crime stuff and adds such a layers of complexity, moral complexity that I think helps keep my intrigue and makes it a little smarter than other movies of that genre. And I think this movie definitely keeps that spirit.
All right. Ethan, what is your number 42?
Yep. My number 42 is a 2018 Korean film called Burning. All right. Burning is an adaptation of a short story by Haruki Murakami, who's a Japanese author who I've read a couple of his books. I really like his writing. It's very dreamlike, and some might find it meandering, but it really is just kind of like this interesting. It's like experiential in a way, and this movie captures the tone of his writing like nothing I've seen before. And I went into this movie knowing nothing about it, and that is the best way to see it. I'm not going to say too much about the actual plot other than like the initial setup. this guy runs into this girl he knew from when he was younger, and she's like, hey, like, would you mind watching my cat while I go on a trip? And he's like, sure, I'll watch your cat. And then she goes on a trip, she comes back, and she's got this guy with her, played by Steven Yeun, who is incredible in this movie. And from there, it just gets, I'm gonna say it, it's a slow burn. It's a very slow burn, but it fucking burns, man. It like it's a movie all about like ambiguity and like doubt, and there's the mystery of the movie is a mystery. It's like, what is the mystery? Is there a mystery? And it's just like so gorgeously shot. There's one scene where the main woman is dancing around with like this beautiful scenery, and like I think it's like twilight, and there's like jazz music playing, and she's just dancing. We're like spinning around with her, and it's like one of the most gorgeous scenes I've ever seen in film ever. And I don't want to say anything else about it other than that if you want a really, really, really incredible slow burn mystery thriller drama, this is like masterfully done.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this. I'd wanted to see it for a long time. I watched it for the show just this week. I was nervous because I saw it was 2.5 hours long. But you're right. It doesn't. First of all, it doesn't feel that long, and it is a slow burn. It's hard to explain because the story it kind of changes genres and things.
Yeah,
but the main story that you get doesn't really start till about 45 minutes in. But in most movies like that, you're like, oh, that sucks. But something about it grabs you. And even before like the main crux of the story starts, just what's just between the relationship of these two people, you're still interested, you're still drawn in. And I don't, like I said, I got to rewatch it because I don't know if I'm remembering it because I've, with the lens of the whole movie, but I feel like even at the beginning, there's something kind of off.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something off about the movie. We were talking about Hitchcock. It feels very much like a Hitchcock movie. Like you just don't know like what's going on, and it's just the movie feels like it's just one step ahead of you the entire time. But yeah, then once it kind of takes off, you don't know where it's going. But like I said, it sucks you in, and you want to know what's going to happen next. Yeah, Steven Yeun's great in this. I only really know him from Walking Dead. And, he plays a completely different character in Walking Dead. So to see him in something like this was really interesting. He is really good. And I want to see the other movie that I'm liking the name of that was nominated this year. Yeah, I want to see that now. Because he's just a really strong actor. But yeah, it's really hard to explain. Even if I gave spoilers, it would still be hard to explain. But it's definitely a movie you want to go into fresh because it's more like an experience than it is like a real tight narrative. But very interesting movie. I'm glad I watched it. Anybody else seen Burning?
I have not seen it.
Nope.
I've seen it. Yeah. I do think though, however, with the type of movie it is and the type of attention span I can have sometimes, especially when not seen in theaters, things that one viewing just isn't enough to fully, understand what's going for. I appreciate the atmosphere in it, and I appreciate in a way it has the same tone as those kind of like the long oh my gosh, I would fuck up titles like The Long Goodbye and these kind of detective stories that meander and never fully have a point. It's a spin on those kind of stories that I appreciate. I just think I missed a lot of the undertones of it that a rewatch should benefit.
All right, Brian, you're 42.
I believe I yiked somebody else on it earlier. It is The Social Network.
Yikes.
Still yikes? Okay.
All right. Then Zach, that's your 42.
My 42, one of the most underwatched movies in the community is The Commitments. This Alan Parker movie. This is one I'm like really nervous to talk about. Not because I think anyone will not like it. It's the opposite, to where I'm like selfish. And I'm worried this will be one of the ones that take off in the community and everyone loves, and they like fucking steal this movie from me. Because it's so like, I know, but it's so wildly accessible and just somehow gotten forgotten, not watched in time. But this is about a soul band, a soul cover band that is like formed of kind of these outcasts in a blue collar town in Ireland, which I have said like blue collar Ireland in British is just like a weird subgenre that like I'm super into. There'll be more of it coming up. But they make such great connection between that style of music and kind of civil rights movement with kind of the Irish politics. Like even of a different race, there's still some similarities in their political background that they can connect to, and why that music speaks to them so much. But also it's just really a movie about the power of the moment, because it's about a band that existed for this like specific, it's a fake movie, but it's about a specific period of time, and just what that period of time meant to the community, meant to them, even though there's just a minor success to it, which I think is one powerful because it's about, seeing the benefits in every moment rather than being negative about the failures or the regrets, but seeing how what you did was special. But it's also special because it makes it realistic. Like they're not this like world touring band. They're like become big in the community. It makes its purpose seem a little tighter. But the performance is also hyper engaging. They cast a lot of real musicians throughout it, even casting a real musician in the main role who doesn't sing or play an instrument, but somehow gives this great performance and like really never acted again, but has such charisma and such as like purposeful earnestness, and which is what needed with someone who's just trying to form the band. He's more or less the manager, but the heart of the movie. But then the lead singer is this like belligerent, Irish type that's drunk and rude and but has this like such great talent. He has a real like Joe Cocker persona to him that is engaging to watch. Before I pass off, I just want to mention Glenn Hansard. Glenn Hansard's one of my favorite musicians. This is 20 years or like 15 years before Once. And he has a mullet and it's real weird. But it's fun to watch him in the older times. So Commitments. Everyone should watch it. I don't understand the movie.
I have not seen Commitments yet. I wanted to, but I had a lot of movies to watch for the show this week, and a lot of them were streaming for free. This one was not. Zach, you need to put more free movies on your list. Everybody else on the Commitments.
Have you guys seen it? Well,
I haven't seen it. I'll just say I really like Glenn Hansard also, but I haven't seen this movie. But
I just came around
to
I just came around on Sing Street, so I don't know. I don't know if I should risk it right now.
I saw this when it came out in theaters, again, knowing really nothing about it except I'd seen a trailer for it. I agree with Zach. I could see a lot of people in this community really enjoying this movie, especially if you like Once, if you like Sing Street, some of those kind of movies. It's got kind of that real same kind of vibe to it, not just because of the Irish thing, but just the music and the personalities of the characters in there. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie. Like you said, it's not about like this big popular band. It's just kind of them in the community and their love of music, and especially the lead singer they recruit is this kid. I think I read he was like 16 years old at the time they made this movie, and he's just amazing. I think Joe Cocker is a perfect comparison to it, but he has so much soul, and it really works. But I enjoyed this a lot. I haven't seen it in far too long. I need to rewatch it.
All right, that brings us to everyone's final movie for the night. Cody, what is your number 41?
I don't think I'm going to be talking about it tonight. It's When Harry Met Sally.
No, you're not talking about it.
I
didn't think so.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't think so.
All right, Ethan, you're 41.
Okay, my 41, which I may or may not be talking about, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
You good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a movie that I love Kubrick's movies, and for a very long time, this is one of the handful of Kubrick movies I had just never seen. And I watched it like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I think. And I was very surprised by how much I liked it. It is crazy how ahead of its time it is, or I guess, it was just that smart at the time. It is super funny in a really dry, satirical way, in the way it just breaks down politics, like world politics, U.S. politics especially, and how our country handles things. George C. Scott gives one of the all-time great comedic performances. I think he sometimes gets overshadowed by Peter Sellers, who's also hilarious in this movie. But I read somewhere, who knows if this is true or it's just one of those movie stories, but I read that like George C. Scott didn't want to do the goofy takes, and Kubrick was would always just be like, all right, let's just get one over the top one. And then allegedly he used all of those over the top takes that George C. Scott didn't think were going to be in the movie, which I love if that's true. I love the ending of this movie. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it because it's almost like one of the best punchlines to a joke of all time. It's just such a great like satirical look at government and human nature, and while also having like some really tense, political and war stuff going on during it. It's like super, super funny, and it's Kubrick, so of course it's just like incredibly directed. All the acting is incredible. It's like gorgeous to look at, even black and white. Love it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah, this is another one I really love. Probably my second or third favorite Kubrick. It's so I just love it's played so straight. Everybody plays so straight that like, I mean, you don't forget it's a comedy, but it's like it's portrayed so much like just a general war movie with jokes. Yeah, I love George C. Scott. Like I heard like the scene where he falls, like he really fell and tried to recover, and they just kept it in the movie. But he's so good. Just and Sterling Hayden. The more movies I see him in, the more I love that guy. But he's so good. But just again, how straight he plays it, how real he's playing it, and how the interaction between him and Sellers with that Sellers character is one of my favorite things about the movie. But it's like you said, it's just such a great satire, and not played as that though. Like it's it's hard to describe because there's nothing like this movie. It's just so one of a kind, and it's a really good looking movie too. Like I really like the way it's shot, like in the 3 different like locations. But yeah, that's a great pick. Definitely belongs in the top 100. Everybody else, why didn't you have this one?
Watched it one time. I really enjoy it. I love like the little things like he's trying not to raise his arm during it. I have seen an interview with George C. Scott. Apparently, it is true that Kubrick did use those things, like against, like telling him he wasn't. He fell in the movie and stuff like that, and he kept it in. Not surprised because George C. Scott was apparently an asshole around sets, and then for Kubrick to be like, "Yeah, sure, no, just act it up, we'll be fine." The best thing I was ever told is not to just expect a joke a minute because everybody says it's one of the best comedies. And when you don't look at it through the lens, I think it works really well. I really enjoy it. It just takes more watches for me to burst onto my top, but it's a Kubrick film I actually like. So.
This is a movie I think that just got built up too much for me because I heard how absolutely hilarious it was. And I watched this movie and I really didn't laugh much at all. Now, maybe I was just not in the right mood that day when I watched it. I don't know, but I don't see the love everybody else has for it, but then there's a lot of Kubrick that just doesn't, do much for me. But I mean, as Kubrick movies go, it's probably in the top half of his filmography of the ones I've seen. But it's just, I think it got overhyped for me and kind of ruined the experience.
Yeah, I need to rewatch. I haven't watched it since college, which I did watch it for like the one film class I took as an environmental studies major, and I had that like bratty, resistant student thing. Like, you're gonna make me read this book, I'm gonna hate it. And it was the same thing like with the movie. I mean, I actually liked it, but I think it's just built a wall to loving it. And I think like Kubrick for a long while has been a barrier for me. I think there's a chilliness to his filmmaking that's just not fully how I adapt. But I think I'm going more used to it. I mean, I've recently watched Barry Lyndon and I love it, but I know that's like an outsider movie for him compared to the rest. But I think this one's like meant for me to love, and I appreciate Pierce as an actor. So I need to rewatch it and give it a better chance. And I love worrying.
Brian, you're 41.
My 41 is 1997's Grosse Point Blank. So John Cusack, obviously, early in his career was doing all kind of the teen comedies, The Better Off Dead, One Crazy Summer, Say Anything, that kind of thing. And then now he's in straight to VOD and DVD hell for the most part. In between, I thought he made some of his best movies, and one of them was Grosse Point Blank. This is a movie that he actually acted as a producer and a writer on, and you can tell because obviously he knows the kind of comedy that he can do best. And there's a lot of that old John Cusack style of comedy, just that from like the Better Off Dead days. But it's more adult because he's obviously this guy who's supposed to be, I guess, 28 because he's going back to his high school reunion. At the same time, he's also an assassin, so he's doing that there. but John Cusack, I think, pulls off the role perfectly. A lot of great dialogue, his delivery of it. It's a role that really, I think, only he could have played the way he did, and it works perfectly. So, like I said, you can tell that he had a hand in writing it. Minnie Driver, I love in this movie. The second time tonight she's come up, but I think she kind of, she's obviously there for romantic interest. She's also very funny, but she also stands up to him. She kind of puts him in his place. The supporting cast also has Alan Arkin in it, Dan Aykroyd, Joan Cusack, of course, who shows up in a lot of John's movies, Hank Azaria, Jeremy Piven. It's got a great supporting cast, top to bottom. Yeah, this is a movie that kind of came out of nowhere, and I didn't really know much about it when it came out, and then I loved it from beginning to end.
This is a great 90s movie about the 80s. I just love that. The soundtrack is fantastic. Yeah, that soundtrack just blows me away. It just not just the soundtrack, but the way specific songs, especially 99 Red Balloons. I love that scene. But yeah, Cusack's great in this. Real easy to like mess this character up, make him too unlikable or whatever, but he's perfect in the role. And this movie just communicates anxiety better than any movie I've ever seen before in my life. Just stress and anxiety of trying to just get through your life and just going, just the idea of going back to something, going back to your past and revisiting something you don't want to, and just how uncomfortable that makes you. I love that scene when his old bully pulls him aside and he's trying to talk to him by the lockers. He's like, who you mad at, man? Who you mad at? He's like, I have words. He's like, oh, a poem? You got a poem? I just so much, just like realistic dialogue like that. The supporting cast is great. Alan Arkin is great as a psychiatrist, and just the little role he's in. But yeah, this was, I don't know, like, I'd have to go back and look. When it came out, this was my favorite movie in '97. I really enjoyed this, and it's just perfect for me. It's a Hitman movie, and it's just but there's so much more to it. And yeah, Minnie Driver's really good at it too, and their relationship's a lot of fun. Everybody else on Gross Point Blank.
I haven't seen it, but Minnie Driver has the same last name as me, her character in this movie, so that's really weird for me to see. But sure, I'll go check it out. It sounds very interesting.
I think you like it. Yeah,
I'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I love this movie. I actually forgot about it because I saw it like a few years ago, but it's great. It's so much fun. I agree with Brian. I love John Cusack from like his heyday, all that stuff he did. It's been a few years, so I don't like remember a lot of specifics about what I like about it, but I remember having like a total blast when I watched it. I remember the convenience store scene being awesome. I love that. And it's just like really funny. It's a clever script. It's Dan Aykroyd. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really, really good movie.
My brain is broken and dead. I remember really liking it, and I remember nothing about it because I'm falling apart as a human being in a lot of ways.
We can tell.
But John Cusack, as you will come to know as the show moves on, is one of my favorite actors. And I just fall for what he's doing. I see a lot of myself. If I was talented, this is what I could see myself doing. But I'm who I am.
You mentioned his name briefly too, Brian. Jeremy Piven. He plays a lot of best friends. I think this is his best friend role. I really like him in this. And finally, would have closed the showdown with Zach's number 41. What do you got, Zach?
Yeah, my 41 is Finding Nemo.
Yikes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
That was easy. Okay, now I got to pick a winner from this mess. Crap. Ethan, why'd you have to do that to me? Things are going so smooth.
Hey, at least you know that I
guess
stayed
who
true.
didn't have a
I stayed true to my taste.
on his list?
I didn't do this for.
Guess who has a boring fucking list? Cody.
I had great movies, for saying.
Despite the penis, I still got to give it to Ethan this week.
Yeah.
He had enough.
It's the clowns.
I mean, that Children of Men, Amadeus, Pacific Rim. Now, Cody,
he had a puppet dick higher than that.
But he still had his. He had.
World. He
Doctor
had
Strangelove.
What happened to
Amadeus and Pacific Rim
He thought the puppet penis was better than those 3 films.
But he had three. He had Doctor Strangelove. He had Burning, which I really liked. Nobody. He had higher highs, and nobody had as high as he did. Cody, relax. Cody, you're number 2 this week.
You gotta fucking live with that shit. You gotta live with
how
that
weird
shit.
that Ethan and Cody are the top 2, like every fucking week.
Cody, you had a lot of, like I said, you didn't have the high highs like Ethan did, but you had a lot of solid movies. There's nothing in your there's nothing I could say anything bad about.
How many puppet dicks did you have to watch for my list? Yeah, none. Interesting, crazy.
Does Rob Schneider count?
Not at 50. No lower.
Brian, I'm going to put you at number 3. You had some, I mean, like Last Boy Scout, like be a Gross Point Blank. You had Spinal Tap, Gladiator, Braveheart, Little Shop, all good stuff. Zach, I really wanted to give you some credit here for Francis Ha because I really, really love that movie, but we just disagreed on too much tonight. So maybe we'll come back to this next week. But I got to put you in 4th place here.
This is one of the saddest things that ever happened to film history. This is like inobjectively masterless.
No. You're getting placed exactly where you belong tonight. But that's all for tonight. Thank you guys, everybody in the chat who stuck around. And it's a long show. I think next week for the bottom 3, we may have to put it to 3 words because we did get really late this week. But we'll see how that works.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
It's gonna get longer the next 3 weeks.
We got a week to work it out. We'll work the kinks out. But thanks for everybody who stuck around, everybody who watched tonight, everybody who's rewatching because we went too late. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you all next week.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
Bob, and I'd expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.